The man who wouldn't die. She kissed a comatose crime boss, and he opened his eyes. For 3 years, he lay in that bed like a corpse that forgot to stop breathing. Feared. Untouchable. A legend the whole city whispered about, but nobody dared visit. Then one broken night, a tired nurse's aide with nothing left to lose leaned down and kissed him, and his eyes snapped open. What she didn't know was that he'd been awake the entire time. Every word, every secret, every mistake, and now he wasn't letting her go. Before we start, if you're watching from far away, drop your city in the comments so I know how far this story has traveled. Hit that like button and stick with me till the very end, because the ending will wreck you. The elevator at St. Meridian Memorial always smelled like bleach and old coffee. And tonight it smelled worse because somebody had thrown up in the corner and maintenance hadn't come up yet. Ava Carter pressed herself against the opposite wall, held her breath, and watched the floor numbers climb. 11, 12, 14. Because there was no 13, hospitals were superstitious like that, which she'd always found funny for buildings where people came to either survive or stop existing. The doors slid open on the 14th floor, and she stepped out into the long gray hallway that led to the private wing. Her sneakers squeaked on the linoleum. One of them had a hole in the heel now. She'd noticed it 2 days ago and hadn't done anything about it because a new pair of work shoes cost $42 at the place on Wexler Street, and $42 was 3 days of groceries if she was careful, and lately she was always careful. "You're late, Carter." Dana at the nurse's station didn't look up from her screen. Her voice was the flat, bored voice of a woman who had worked the night shift for 11 years and considered everything that happened after 10 p.m. to be a personal inconvenience. "Bus broke down on Halsted," Ava said. "I ran the last 6 blocks." I'm sorry. I didn't ask for an apology. I said you were late." Dana finally looked up. She had kind eyes buried under very tired skin. "Go, he's been fussing." Ava blinked. "He's been what?" "Vitals. Heart rate spiked twice in the last hour for no reason. Dr. Halloran came up, couldn't find a cause, left again. Just keep an eye on him." "Okay." "And Carter?" "Yeah?" "Eat something. You look like a ghost." Ava tried to smile. It came out crooked, the way most of her smiles came out these days, like something borrowed from a person who had more energy than her. She walked down the hall, past the 2 doors that were always closed, past the water fountain that never worked, past the emergency cart she'd once seen a doctor kick in frustration, all the way to the end. Room 1427. The private suite. 2 armed men in dark suits stood on either side of the door, neither of them pretending to be anything other than what they were. The one on the left, Victor, was the nice one. He was maybe 40, built like a retired boxer, and he had a daughter somewhere in Ohio whose picture he'd once shown Ava when he'd been drunk on grief after her birthday. The one on the right, whose name she didn't know, never spoke. He watched her with the flat patience of a dog waiting to be told to bite. "Evening, sunshine," Victor said. "Hey, Vic. Long night? Aren't they all?" He chuckled. It was a rough, friendly sound that didn't match the bulge under his jacket. He swiped his access card. The door beeped green and clicked open. "Behave yourself in there," he said. "With who, Vic? The guy hasn't moved in 3 years." "Yeah," Victor said, and there was something strange in his voice that she didn't have time to catch. "Yeah, that's what they say." The door side shut behind her. The suite was cold. It was always cold. Riker Kane's people paid extra to keep it that way. 62 degrees year-round, humming quietly through vents that had been custom installed before she'd ever set foot on this floor. The lights were low. A single lamp burned in the corner over a leather reading chair nobody ever sat in. Machines beeped softly. The heart monitor. The vent. The IV pump with its little green digital heart. And in the middle of it all, the bed. He was a big man even lying still. 6'3", maybe 6'4", long-limbed and broad-shouldered, with the kind of build you earn from a life of doing things other people aren't willing to do. His hair had gone darker over the years from lack of sun, almost black now, and somebody, a private barber paid too much money, came every 2 weeks to keep it cut. His jaw was shaved clean. His hands rested on top of the white blanket, palms down, fingers long and still. Riker Kane. The name the city whispered like a curse. 34 years old, at least on paper. The only son of Jacob Kane, who'd run the waterfront before cancer ate him, head of the Kane family before a single bullet at a restaurant on Diver Street put him down, and nobody, not the doctors at 3 different hospitals, not the specialist flown in from Zurich, not the neurologist from Boston with the famous last name, could figure out why he hadn't gotten back up. 3 years. 3 years he had lain here, not quite dead, not quite alive, and the city had held its breath waiting to see what would happen. Ava set her bag down on the chair nobody used. "Hey, Mr. Kane," she said quietly. "It's me. It's Ava. Sorry I'm late." She did this every night. She talked to him. Nobody had told her to. None of the other aides did. It had just seemed rude the first week to move around a man's body like he was furniture, so she'd started talking and she'd never stopped. "Bus broke down on Halstead," she said, walking to the sink. She washed her hands, dried them on a rough paper towel, snapped on a pair of gloves. "I had to run. I think I pulled something in my side. You ever pull something in your side? It's the worst. Hurts when you laugh, hurts when you cough. Not that I've been laughing a lot." She checked his IV. Steady drip. She checked the catheter bag. She checked the readout on the vent. Everything normal. She logged it all on the clipboard that hung at the foot of the bed. "Dana said your heart rate spiked, twice. Nothing to worry about, probably, but you gotta stop scaring people. Dr. Halloran came all the way up here. You know how he is about his sleep." The heart monitor beeped its steady, lonely beep. She moved to the side of the bed and lifted his left arm, gentle, the way she'd been trained. 2 years of nursing school before she'd had to drop out, and they drilled it into her. Treat the unconscious like the conscious, because you never know. She rolled his wrist carefully, bent the elbow, straightened it, did the small exercises that kept the joints from locking up. His skin was warm. That always surprised her. She didn't know why. He was alive, of course he was warm, but some part of her brain kept expecting him to be cold, because he was Riker Kane, and everything she'd ever heard about Riker Kane made her expect a certain kind of chill. "Mrs. Petrov down the hall passed on Tuesday," she said. "I don't know if you remember me telling you about her. The woman with the grandson who visited every Sunday. He still came, even after she stopped recognizing him. That's a good kid. That's what a good kid looks like." She set his left arm down, picked up his right. "My landlord came by again yesterday. Mr. Dolan. You'd hate him. He has this little mustache, like a caterpillar that died on his face. He wants the rent by Friday, or he's changing the locks. I told him you can't just change the locks on somebody. There are laws." And he laughed at me. He actually laughed. She swallowed. Her throat had gone tight, the way it did sometimes. She didn't let herself cry at work. There was a rule, one she'd made herself on her first night on this floor. No crying in this room, not in front of him, even if he couldn't see. He was a man who'd spent his whole life around people who tried to use him, and she wasn't going to be one more. "Anyway," she said, "I'll figure it out. I always figure it out." She kept working. She did the range of motion on both his arms, then both his legs. She checked the heels of his feet for pressure sores, because even with the fancy air mattress and the turns every 2 hours, you had to check. His skin was clean. The private day nurse, Helena, was meticulous about that, and Ava appreciated her for it, even though they had never exchanged more than 10 words in 3 years. She adjusted the blanket. She looked at his face. She had looked at this face more nights than she had looked at any other face in her life. More than her mother's face. More than any boyfriend's face. More than her own face in the cracked bathroom mirror of her studio on Seward Avenue. She knew the small scar that cut through his left eyebrow. She knew the shape of his mouth, the full lower lip, the thin upper one. She knew the way his eyelashes, ridiculously long for a man, sat against his cheekbones. She knew there was a freckle high on his right temple, almost hidden by his hair. She knew his hands, too. She had held them. To do the exercises. Nothing else. "You know what I was thinking on the bus," she said, before it broke down. "I was thinking about what I would do if I could just sleep for a year. Just close my eyes and open them again a year later, and everything would be different. Bills paid, rent covered, my mom's hospice bill. God, I shouldn't even be telling you about that. That's not your problem. Just all of it. Just handled. I was thinking what a gift that would be." She made a small, tired sound that was almost a laugh. "Then I thought, I'm in here every night with a man who's been asleep for 3 years, and I wondered what it's like. If you dream, if it's dark, if it's just Nothing. She hadn't sat down yet. She should sit down. Her feet hurt. I hope it's peaceful, wherever you are, she said. I hope wherever you went, it's better than wherever you came from. She pulled the chair closer to the bed and finally sat. She let her head fall back. She closed her eyes for just a second. The chair was leather and very expensive, and somebody with a lot of money had picked it out because it reclined just slightly and the angle was perfect for her neck, and she felt her whole body start to surrender to it, and she caught herself hard and sat up straight. Don't sleep on shift. Ever. Ever. She stood back up, walked to the window, pulled the blackout curtain aside half an inch, and looked down at the city. It was raining. Of course it was raining. The lights of downtown smeared in the water on the glass. 14 floors below, an ambulance was pulling into the bay, red and white strobing off the wet pavement. Somebody's worst night of their life was starting down there. Somebody else's was ending. That was what hospitals were. Not places of healing, places of outcomes. She let the curtain drop. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out. A text from her sister. Mom asked for you today. Just so you know. She stared at the words until they blurred. Her mother hadn't asked for anyone in 6 months. Her mother had stopped being able to ask for things with any reliability around the time the cancer found her spine. That she had asked for Ava today meant one of two things. That she had had a good window, a rare one, or that she was closer to the end than they thought. Ava sat down on the edge of the bed, not the chair. The bed. Riker Kane's bed, right next to his still legs, something she had never done once in 3 years because it was unprofessional and wrong. And also, there were cameras in the corners, even though she was 90% sure they had been disabled long ago to protect the privacy of whoever visited this room. She didn't care tonight. She put her face in her hands. I'm so tired, Mr. Kane, she whispered. I'm so tired. The machines beeped. My mom's dying. You probably don't care. Why would you care? You don't even know me. But she's dying, and the hospice wants $3,800 by the end of the month, or they're going to move her to the county place, and the county place is... You don't know what the county place is like. I worked there one summer in school. I know what it's like, and I can't let that happen to her. She was a good mother. She pressed her hands harder into her eyes. I took 2 extra shifts this week. I'm going to take 2 more next week. I've been selling plasma. Did you know they pay you $40 to sit in a chair for an hour and watch a Hallmark movie while a machine sucks your blood out? That's a thing. That's a real thing in America. I go on Tuesdays. She laughed, wet. I'm sorry. This isn't... I shouldn't be dumping this on you. You've got your own problems. I mean, you don't. You don't have any problems. You're just lying here, and the world is doing whatever it's doing to you outside, and you don't even know. She dropped her hands. She looked at him, and for one very strange second, she could have sworn his eyelashes moved. She froze. She stared at his face, stared at it the way she had never stared at any face. Pupils hunting, breath held, waiting for the twitch to come again so she could be sure it was real. Nothing. The heart monitor beeped. She exhaled, shaky. God, I'm losing it, she muttered. I'm actually losing it. But she didn't move off the bed. She sat there, maybe a foot from his shoulder, and she looked at his mouth, and she didn't know why she was doing it. She wasn't the kind of woman who did things like that. She had been raised in a small apartment by a mother who taught her to be careful about men and careful about strangers, and most of all careful about powerful men who could not explain themselves. She was 26 years old, and she had kissed exactly 4 men in her life, and none of them were unconscious crime bosses she had only ever known as a body in a bed. I'm sorry, she said quietly, and she didn't know what she was apologizing for yet. She leaned down. She didn't plan it. That was the thing she would tell herself later, over and over, in the small dark hours of nights that came after this one. She didn't plan it. She was exhausted and she was breaking, and something in her just reached. Not for romance, not for anything like that. For proof, maybe. Proof that there was another human being in this room and not just a shell hooked up to tubes. Proof that somewhere, down in the quiet dark of him, there was a person who might have heard her. Any of the 1,000 things she had said over 1,000 nights, and known that somebody in the world cared whether he came back. Her lips touched his. It was nothing. A press. Barely. It was soft, and it was warm, and it was, for 1/2 second, the loneliest thing she had ever done. And then, his hand closed around her wrist. She didn't scream. That was the strange part looking back. She didn't scream. Her whole body locked up, every muscle she had, and her breath stopped in her throat like a bone. And she stared down at the long fingers wrapped around her forearm, the pressure firm but not crushing, deliberate, controlled. And she realized her lips were still against his. She jerked back. His hand went with her. He didn't let go. She looked at his face. His eyes were open. They were gray. She had never known that. 3 years and she had never known his eyes were gray. A flat, cold gray like a sky before a bad storm, and they were looking directly into hers, fully focused, completely awake. "Don't scream," he said. His voice was a wreck. It was deeper than any voice she had ever heard, and it scraped, every word dragged across 3 years of disuse. But it was clear, and it was lucid, and it was a sentence, a complete sentence, spoken by a man who was supposed to be in a coma. "Don't scream," he said again. "Please." The please was what broke her. A wild, electric, panicked sound tried to claw up out of her throat, and she swallowed it down because he had said please. Riker Kane had said please, and she understood without being able to explain it that if she screamed right now, something very bad was going to happen. To her, to him, to both of them. And she didn't know what that something was, but every animal instinct in her body was telling her to shut her mouth and keep it shut. "Okay," she breathed. "Okay, okay." His grip on her wrist loosened a little. Not all the way. A little. He was watching her face, reading her. His chest rose and fell, a tiny bit too fast, and she realized he was breathing on his own, that the ventilator was on standby, that the only reason it had been there at all for the last however long was protocol. "How long?" he rasped. "What? How long have I been here?" She stared at him. His eyes stared back. There was no confusion in them, no panic, no slow-rising recognition of a man pulling up from deep water. Just a clear, cold, waiting focus. And she understood, before she'd put her mouth on his, before tonight. He had been awake, maybe not all the time, maybe not every night, but long enough and often enough that the question wasn't really how long, the question was how much have you heard? 3 years, she whispered. "You've been here 3 years. Something flickered across his face. Not surprise. Something quieter and colder. A man doing math. "What month is it?" "October." "What year?" She told him. His jaw worked. His throat did a long, slow swallow, like each word was a task he had to push his body through, and she watched him do it, and some part of her that was still functioning noticed that his lips were dry and cracked, and that he had not had water in the way a conscious person has water in. God knew how long. "Water," she said. "You need water. Let me—" "Don't move. You need— Don't move." She didn't move. He closed his eyes for just a second. When he opened them again, they were less cold. Not warm. Just less cold. Like he was allowing himself, for one breath, to be tired. "What's your name?" he said. "Ava? Ava Carter." "Ava." The way he said it did something to her spine that she didn't have the energy to examine. "Ava Carter," he said. "Listen very carefully." She nodded. "Outside that door," he said, "there are 2 men. One is named Victor Reyes, the other one, his name is Daniel Marsh. Daniel Marsh works for my brother. My brother wants me dead. If Daniel Marsh knows I am awake, I will not live to see sunrise. Do you understand me?" Her mouth was dry. "I don't— Do you understand me?" "Yes." It came out a whisper. "Yes, I understand you." "Good." His eyes closed for 1 second, opened again. "When you leave this room, you are going to walk down the hall like every other night. You are going to chart your notes at the desk. You are going to say goodnight to the woman at the front. You are going to go home. You are not going to tell anyone. Not a doctor, not a coworker, not your sister, not your mother." She jerked at the word mother. His eyes narrowed. "I heard you," he said quieter. "I heard all of it." Her face went hot. "Oh God," she whispered. "Don't be embarrassed," he said. "You're the only reason I didn't lose my mind." She didn't know what to do with that. She didn't know what to do with any of this. "Mr. Kane." Riker. Riker. The name felt strange in her mouth. "I can't— You need a doctor. I have to get— No doctors." You've been unconscious for 3 years. Your body... No doctors, Ava. She stared at him. His hand was still on her wrist. He was squeezing, very slightly, and she realized with a jolt of something that wasn't quite fear that he was trembling. His arm. His whole arm. The one holding hers. He was shaking the way a man shakes when he has been carrying something heavy for much too long. I can't hold this up much longer, he said. His voice was very quiet now, almost gentle. I'm going to let go. I'm going to close my eyes. You're going to chart your notes. You are going to walk out that door. And tomorrow night, when you come back, you are going to act like nothing happened. Can you do that for me? Can you do that for me, Ava? Why me? She whispered. Something passed behind his gray eyes. It might have been regret. It might have been calculation. She didn't know him well enough to tell yet. Because, he said, you're the only person who has walked into this room in 3 years who wanted nothing from me. She felt a tear slide down her face. She didn't know when she had started crying. Please, he said again. That word again. That terrible, polite, begging word that didn't fit anything else about him. She nodded. She couldn't find her voice, so she nodded. His hand slid off her wrist. His arm dropped to the blanket like it weighed 50 pounds. His eyes closed. For 1 second, she thought he had gone again. She thought maybe she had imagined it. Maybe she was sleep-deprived. Maybe the sugar in her blood had dropped out and her brain had cooked up a whole hallucination. Then his lips moved. Tomorrow night, he whispered. Come back. I will. Promise me. I promise. His face relaxed. His breathing slowed. The heart monitor steadied. He looked once again like a man who had been asleep for 3 years. Ava sat on the edge of the bed and shook. She sat there for... She didn't know. A minute. 5. She pulled herself upright. She wiped her face on her sleeve. She stood up on legs that did not entirely belong to her. She straightened the blanket where she had crumpled it. She picked up the clipboard. She uncapped her pen. Her hand was shaking so badly she had to brace the clipboard against her thigh to write. 2,347. Patient resting. Vitals stable. No change. A. Carter, RNA. She hung the clipboard back. She looked at him one more time. He looked dead. He looked like he had looked every night for 3 years. If she hadn't felt his hand around her wrist, she would have believed every inch of it. She picked up her bag. She walked to the door. She put her hand on the handle, and before she turned it, she looked back over her shoulder one more time, and in that second, only that second, she thought she saw one corner of his mouth lift, just barely, just a twitch, almost a smile. Then it was gone. She opened the door. The hallway light hit her like a slap. Long shift, Victor said, and he was still there, hands in his pockets, giving her his tired uncle's smile. The other one, Daniel Marsh, the one whose name she now knew, looked at her a second too long. Pretty quiet, she heard herself say. He's resting. Good, Victor said. She walked past them. She felt Daniel Marsh's eyes on the back of her neck for every step until she turned the corner. At the nurse's station, Dana took one look at her and said, Jesus, Carter, are you okay? You look like you saw somebody die. Ava opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. Just a long night, she said. Go home, get some sleep. Yeah. And Carter, whatever it is, Dana's voice softened a shade. You can talk to me, you know that, right? For one wild second, Ava almost did. She almost leaned over the counter and said, the man in 1427 is awake. He's been awake. He said his half-brother's trying to kill him, and somebody named Daniel Marsh standing 12 feet away from me right now is going to shoot him in the head if he finds out. And I don't know what to do, Dana. I don't know what to do. She didn't. Thanks, Dana, she said. I will. She rode the elevator down. The same vomit smell, the same scuffed floor. She pushed through the revolving door out into the rain. The cold hit her face and she realized she was still crying. She walked half a block before she had to stop and lean against a light pole because her legs wouldn't hold her up anymore. She pressed her forehead against the wet metal and she breathed, and she breathed, and she tried to understand what had just happened. For 3 years she had cared for a body. Tonight a man had looked up at her from that body and called her by her name and had listened, apparently, to everything she had ever said in that room. Every complaint, every confession, every half-drunk on exhaustion whisper about her mother and her rent and her shoes with the hole in them. He had heard all of it. He had heard all of it, and he had looked at her like she mattered. Her phone buzzed. Another text from her sister. She's asking when you're coming. Ava stared at the screen until the words doubled. She typed back, with fingers that would not stop trembling. Tomorrow. I'll come tomorrow. She slid the phone into her pocket. She stood under the light in the rain for a long time. And high above her, on the 14th floor of St. Meridian Memorial, in a cold, dark room with a single lamp burning in the corner, Riker Kane opened his eyes again. He stared at the ceiling. His hand, the one that had held her wrist, was still trembling. He flexed the fingers slowly, one by one. He watched them move. He watched them obey. He thought of a tired woman's voice saying, "I hope wherever you went, it's better than wherever you came from." He thought of her lips on his. And for the first time since a bullet had found him on Diver Street 3 years ago, Riker Kane smiled, a small, private, dangerous smile in the dark. "Ava Carter," he said to the empty room. And something ancient and patient inside him, something that had been waiting for a reason, woke up. She didn't sleep. She got home at 1:15, climbed 4 flights of stairs because the elevator in her building had been broken since August, unlocked the 3 deadbolts on her door in the order her mother had taught her to do it, top, middle, bottom, and stood in the middle of her studio apartment for a full minute without taking off her coat. The radiator was clanking. Somewhere down the hall a baby was crying. The faucet in the kitchenette dripped the way it had been dripping for 7 months, and the super kept saying he'd get to it, and he never did. And Ava usually didn't notice anymore. But tonight, every drip hit her like a small wet slap. She sat down on the edge of her mattress. She put her hands flat on her thighs. She stared at the crack in the plaster above her window. He heard me. That was the thought that would not leave. It circled. It landed. It took off again. He had heard her. Everything. The confessions she had not told her sister. The fear about her mother. The shame about the plasma center. The night 8 months ago when she had sat in that chair and wept, really wept, for 40 minutes because a collection agent had called her at 7 in the morning and read off the balance on a credit card her ex-boyfriend had opened in her name before he'd disappeared. She remembered that night. She had sobbed into her hands and said, "I just want one thing in my life that isn't on fire. Just one." He had been awake for that. She pressed her palms against her eyes until she saw green sparks. She didn't cry. She was cried out. She just sat there. And she thought about the weight of his hand on her wrist. And she thought about the gray of his eyes. And she thought about the word please. When the sky outside her window finally started turning the color of dirty bathwater, she got up and made coffee in the little 2-cup machine on her counter and drank it standing at the sink. She took a shower. The water ran lukewarm because the building's boiler hated mornings. She put on the same uniform she had washed in the sink the night before and hung over the shower rod to dry. And when she got to the sleeve, she saw a faint ring on the cuff from where his fingers had gripped her. It was nothing, just a crease, just a shadow of pressure in the fabric. And she knew she was imagining it, but she pressed her thumb against it anyway and stood there a long time. She went to see her mother before her shift. The hospice on Linden Street smelled like lavender and warm laundry, which was better than any hospital smell she knew, and she thought that was one small thing they were doing right. The woman at the front desk waved her through. She walked the familiar hallway to room 12. She pushed the door open slow. Because sometimes her mother was asleep and you didn't wake her if you didn't have to, sleep was a gift now. Sleep was almost the only gift left. Her mother was awake. She was propped up against the pillows, small and yellow under the window light, her hair thin to a silver wisp. Her eyes found Ava, and it took a second. It always took a second now. And then they lit, just a little, like a pilot light catching. "There she is," her mother whispered. "Hi, Mom." Ava crossed the room and took her hand. It was cold. It was always cold now, even though the hospice kept the rooms warm. She bent and kissed her mother's forehead and breathed in the smell of her and held it in her lungs the way a diver holds air. "You look like hell," her mother said. "Thanks, Mom." "Sit down. Sit." She sat. "I'm sorry I didn't come yesterday." "Ava, honey, you work." "I should have come." "You should sleep." "When you sleep, I don't know." Her mother's voice was paper thin, but her eyes were clear today, clearer than they had been in weeks. "You sleeping?" "Sure." "Liar." Ava almost laughed. "Yeah, okay. Not really." "Something happened?" Ava stared at their joined hands, the IV taped to the back of her mother's, the bones visible through the skin. No, she lied. Her mother watched her for a long moment. She had been a high school guidance counselor for 29 years. She could smell a lie at 50 yards. Ava, it's nothing, Mom. It's fine. It's work. That man. Ava's head came up. What? That man you take care of, her mother said. The important one. You're not getting too close to that, are you? Mom. I don't like it. He's in a coma. Men like that, even in a coma, it's not safe. Mom, please. Your father was like that. Not like that, not a criminal, but that kind of man. That kind that takes up the whole room even when they're not saying anything. I loved him, and he ate me alive, and I don't want that for you. Mom, I'm just saying. I hear you. Her mother closed her eyes. The effort of a conversation was already too much. Ava watched her breathe and counted the breaths. 1, 2, 3, 4. The way she did now, because some mornings you counted them and you got to a number and you didn't know if there were going to be any more. I love you, her mother said, not opening her eyes. I love you too, Mom. Go to work. I've got time. Go. Stop looking at me like I'm going to evaporate. I'm too ornery to evaporate. Ava kissed her forehead again and left the room with tears in her eyes that she didn't let fall until she was in the parking lot sitting on the hood of a stranger's car. She rode the bus to St. Meridian in a fog. Every stop she looked up at the people getting on and off and thought about how none of them had any idea. The woman with the stroller, the kid with the headphones, the old man with the newspaper folded under his arm. Not one of them knew that a man the city thought was a vegetable was, in fact, very much not. Not one of them knew she had kissed him. Not one of them knew she had promised to come back. She almost didn't. 3 times on that bus ride she thought about it. About just getting off at a different stop, calling in sick, walking into a different hospital in a different part of town and asking if they were hiring and never going back to St. Meridian. Let somebody else deal with it. Let somebody else be the one holding Riker Kane's secret. But she had promised. And this was the worst part, the part she couldn't quite look at. She wanted to see him again. She wanted to see his eyes. The shift started the same way every other shift had started. She badged in. She hung her coat in the break room. She washed her hands. She went to the nurse's station. Dana was not there tonight. A woman named Cheryl, with a bleached blonde ponytail, was working the desk. Ava had never liked Cheryl. Cheryl was the kind of nurse who complained loudly about patients within earshot of their families, and then laughed when somebody pointed it out. You're on 14, Cheryl said, without looking up. I know. They want you in 1427 all night, no rotation. Ava's stomach dropped. All night? Family's request. Who's? Don't ask questions. Just do the shift. Ava turned away before her face could betray her. She walked the long gray hall, past the closed doors, past the broken water fountain, past the emergency cart. Victor and Daniel Marsh were at the door. Her heart slammed once against her ribs, hard, and she forced herself to keep her face still. Evening, sunshine, Victor said. He looked the same as he had looked the night before. Same tired smile, same bulk. Hey, Vic. Heard you're in there the whole shift. Yeah, somebody decided. Mr. Kane's people, Daniel Marsh said. It was the first time she had ever heard his voice. It was softer than she'd expected, almost pleasant, and something about the softness of it made her skin crawl up the back of her neck. Oh, she said. Daniel Marsh smiled at her. They said the regular turnover's not good for his vitals. Asked for consistency. You've been the most consistent, so... You got the gig. Okay. Lucky you. Yeah. Victor swiped his card. The door beeped. She stepped through. It hissed shut behind her. She stood for a second with her back to the door. Riker Kane lay on the bed. Still. Exactly as she had left him. For one awful second, she thought she had imagined all of it. All of it. That she was losing her mind from exhaustion and grief and hunger, and that she was going to walk to the chair and sit down and chart another night of no change, and that tomorrow morning she would have to admit to herself that she was coming apart. Then, without opening his eyes, he said, "Lock the bathroom door." She jumped so hard she nearly dropped her clipboard. What? The bathroom. There's a camera in the ceiling, old one. Still works. Go in. Lock it behind you. Come back. The audio range on the ones out here is bad. The one in there picks up everything. She stared at him. His eyes were still closed. His mouth had barely moved. If you had been watching on a screen, you would not have seen anything. Go, he said. She went. She closed the bathroom door. She locked it. She came back. Okay, she whispered. His eyes opened. She was not any readier for them tonight than she had been last night. They hit her the same way, flat gray, focused, and very, very awake. You came back, he said. His voice was still rough, but less so. The second day of use, like a machine unfreezing. I said I would. People say a lot of things. I'm not people. Something moved at the corner of his mouth. Not quite a smile. No, he said. You're not. She set the clipboard down. She walked to the sink, washed her hands out of habit, dried them. She did it because she needed the 20 seconds to get her breathing under control. When she turned around, he was watching her, and he had turned his head. He had moved his head to do it. You moved, she said. Yes. Your neck muscles haven't worked in 3 years. They have. I've been working them, very slowly, mostly at night, mostly when nobody was here. That's not possible. The atrophy. Ava. She stopped. I don't know how to explain what's happening to me, he said, but I know what I can do. And I know what I can't. And right now I can turn my head, and I can move both arms badly, and I can speak. If you give me a week, I can probably sit up. If you give me a month, I can probably stand. I don't know how long I have before my brother figures out something's wrong, but it's not a month. Wait. She held up her hands. Your brother. Half-brother. You said last night. I know what I said. He wants you dead? Yes. Why? Because I'm not dead yet. Because as long as I'm breathing, I'm the head of my father's business, and he is not. Because my father left everything to me in a will that I am told is very clear. He gets control only if I die or am declared legally incapacitated, and 3 years of a coma is not quite incapacitated. So every month he spends hoping I die of pneumonia, and every month I don't, his patience gets a little thinner. Ava's stomach had gone cold. And he has somebody outside the door. Daniel Marsh, been on his payroll for 4 years, maybe 5. Got onto my security detail 6 months after I went down. My people vetted him. He paused. My people were wrong. How do you know this? Because Daniel Marsh has been in this room. What? At night? Twice? Not when you were here. The first time was a year ago. He came in alone. He stood at the end of the bed. He said, it doesn't matter what he said. He was measuring me, Ava. He was checking to see if I was really gone. The second time was 8 months ago. He brought a syringe. Jesus, she whispered. He didn't use it. Why not? Riker's eyes held hers. Because somebody walked in, he said. A tired aide running 40 minutes late, apologizing to an unconscious man because her bus broke down on Halsted. Ava's hand found the edge of the bed. Me. You. Oh my God. He left the syringe in his pocket. He walked out. He has not been back in this room alone since. He has been waiting for a better opportunity. He'll get it. Eventually. Unless I get out of here first. She sat down on the chair. She had to. Her knees had stopped working. You saved my life, he said. You didn't know you were doing it. You saved my life. I was just doing my shift. I know. I didn't know any of this. Oh my God, Ava. She looked up. You have to stop saying that. Saying what? Oh my God. Every 3 sentences you say it. If the audio ever got pulled, they're going to hear it and they're going to wonder. She let out a sound that was half a laugh and half something else. Okay. Thank you. She rubbed her hands over her face. She kept them there a second. When she took them away, she looked at him differently, like a woman looking at a problem. You need to tell me what you want. What I want. You told me to come back. I came back. You're telling me things that I can't unknow. What do you want me to do with them? He was quiet a long time. I want you to keep coming back, he said finally. Every night. I want you to act like nothing has changed. I want you to do exactly what you've been doing for 3 years. Talk to me. Move my arms. Check the lines. Chart your notes. Leave. And when the room is clear, I want you to tell me what's happening outside this door. Who came to see me? Who my brother is speaking to? What my people are doing? Whether anybody seems nervous. I'm a nurse's aide. Mr. Kane. Riker. Riker. I work on the night shift. I don't know anything about anything. I don't even know your brother's name. Marcus. Okay. I don't know what Marcus is doing. I don't know your people. I barely know the day nurses. You know more than you think. The question is whether you're willing to pay attention. She stared at the floor. What happens to me? She said. If you help me. If I help you. He was quiet again. When he spoke, his voice had gone different. Lower, not softer, lower. You get out of it. Out of what? Out of all of it. The rent, the hospice, the plasma center, the bus that breaks down on Halstead, the shoes with the hole in the heel. You get out of it. All of it. Tonight, if you want. Tomorrow, if you don't. I can make a phone call from this bed, Ava. Weak as I am, and by the end of the week, your mother is in a private room in the best palliative facility on the coast with a private nurse, and your debts are cleared and your rent is paid 2 years out, and you never have to sell your blood to a technician in a strip mall again. She stared at him. You don't know me, she whispered. I've known you longer than you think. I cried in here, Riker. I know. I said things, I know. That's not knowing someone. That's eavesdropping on someone. He took a breath. It shook a little. Yes, he said, it is. And I could apologize for it, but I won't because I didn't have a choice. I couldn't have closed my ears. I couldn't have stopped hearing you. You were the only human voice that came into this room for 3 years that wasn't trying to measure my breathing or take my money. If I pretended I didn't hear you, I'd be lying to you, and whatever this is. He made a tiny gesture with the fingers of his right hand. This isn't going to survive lying. Her throat had closed. This is what? She said. I don't know yet. She looked up. I don't either. They looked at each other. The heart monitor beeped. I need to think, she said. Yes. I need to think. This is... You are... I don't know what this is, and I need to think. Take the night. Do your shift. Don't answer me yet. Okay. Ava? Yeah. If you decide no. If you walk out of here tonight and you decide you don't want any of it, I won't come after you. I won't have anybody come after you. You walk away. You go back to your life. I'll go back to being a body in a bed until Daniel Marsh has a clean night, and the answer to what happens after that is not your responsibility. It was never your responsibility. You understand me. You'd die. Probably. She looked at him a long time. Don't play me, she said quietly. His head, when it turned back to face her fully on the pillow, was a slow and effortful thing, but his eyes were clear. I'm not playing you. People like you always play people like me. Yes, usually we do. So why not now? He was quiet. Because I'm tired, he said. Just that. I'm tired, and I don't want to die with the last real voice I've heard being yours asking me if I'm a liar. Her eyes stung. Okay, she whispered. She got up. She did her rounds. She checked the IV. She checked the catheter bag. She did the range of motion on his legs. Real range of motion. Careful, slower than she'd ever done it, because now she was suddenly and terribly aware that the legs under her hands belonged to a conscious man. He watched her. He didn't speak. When she did his right arm, he winced once and made a small sound, and she froze. Sorry. No. Don't stop. It has to move. It has to keep moving, or I'm never going to stand up out of this bed. Do the full range. Hurt me if you have to. She did the full range. She charted her notes. She hung the clipboard. She said without looking at him, There's a thing I should tell you. Go. Cheryl at the desk said the family asked for me. For the whole shift, for consistency. That wasn't my family. I know. That was Marcus. Yeah. He wants me watched by somebody specific, somebody he can track, somebody he can get to if it comes to it. He doesn't know I'm that person. He just knows I'm here every night. He knows enough to want you to be the one in the room. Why? Because a stranger is a variable. You're known. A known quantity is useful, especially when you're about to do something that requires everybody else to stay calm. Her pulse had picked up again. Riker. Yes. He's going to move soon. Yes? How soon? I don't know. Weeks. Maybe days. The fact that he wants you pinned in this room is a change. He hasn't pressed for anything in 8 months. Something is happening on his end. Okay? Ava. Yeah. Whatever you decide tonight. Not tomorrow. Tonight. She looked at him. Okay. She sat in the chair. She was supposed to be charting. She wasn't. She was looking at the dark outside the window and the smear of the city lights, and she was trying to think. And thinking was not working, because every time she tried to line up the choices in her head, they ran together. Stay in her life. Go home to her apartment that smelled like mildew. Work double shifts. Watch her mother die in a public facility. Walk away from this room and never come back and spend every night for the rest of her life wondering what had happened to a man who had heard her cry. Or whatever or was a thing with no edges. Or was walking into a story that had already killed people she had never met and was clearly going to kill more. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out under the edge of the chair where the hypothetical audio couldn't see it. Mom's in pain. They upped the morphine. She keeps asking for you. Ava closed her eyes. When she opened them, she was crying, quietly, and she didn't care. She put the phone away. She stood up. She walked to the bed. Riker. His eyes opened. I want you to understand something, she said. Her voice was quiet and very level, and she was surprised at how level it was. I'm not doing this for you. I don't know you. Last night is the first time I ever heard you speak. I don't owe you anything. I know. I'm doing this for my mother. I understand. You will get her into that facility. Tonight. Not tomorrow. Tonight. You will make the call. Yes. You will not ask me to do anything that gets me arrested. I will try. I can't promise. I'll try. You will not lie to me. No. If at any point I say I want out, you will let me out. Yes. Swear it. He held her eyes. I swear it, Ava Carter. She breathed out slow. Then tell me what to do. He looked at her a long, long moment. Something like relief passed across his face and was gone. He turned his head an inch to glance at the cell phone on his nightstand, an expensive model that sat on a wireless charger, untouched for 3 years, the same phone that had been in his pocket the night he'd been shot. Somebody on his staff had maintained it, charged it, kept it alive, waiting. Bring me the phone. She did. She placed it in his hand. His fingers closed on it awkwardly. 3 years of muscle memory gone, and for a second she thought he was going to drop it, but he hooked his thumb under it and held it. Thumbprint still works, he murmured, almost to himself. The screen unlocked. He stared at it. A small private moment, like a man who had been at sea a long time putting a foot back on shore. What are you doing? She said. Making a call. Riker, the audio. The audio on the ceiling camera doesn't reach me if I keep my voice under a whisper, and the one in the bathroom is locked behind a door. We're fine. Come closer. Stand between the bed and the door. Block the line of sight. She came closer. He lifted the phone. He tapped a single contact. He put the phone on speaker, very low, and held it close to his mouth. It rang once. A voice picked up. A man's voice, old, rough, careful. Yes. Henry. The line went dead silent. Henry, Riker said again, and his voice was quiet and clear and absolute. It's me. Don't speak. Don't react. Don't put me on any open line. Don't tell anyone I called. Anyone. A very long pause. I hear you, sir. The voice had gone formal, tight, but Ava could hear the breath behind it, the sound of a man who had just been told the dead had risen. I hear you. I need a favor. Anything. There's a hospice in this city, Linden Street. A woman named... What's your mother's name, Ava? Maureen Carter, she whispered. Maureen Carter, Riker said into the phone. She's at the hospice on Linden. I want her moved tonight, not the morning, tonight. I want her in the best palliative care within 200 miles, private room, private nurses, pain management at whatever level her doctors recommend. You will not use my name. You will not use a Kane attorney. You will pay for it through the Willow Point Fund. Do it now. Call me back on this number when it's done. Yes, sir.
Henry. Sir, I'm not back. Do you understand me? Yes, sir. Not a word to anyone, including my mother.
Understood. He ended the call. He dropped the phone on the blanket like it weighed 10 pounds. He closed his eyes for a second, breathing hard. Whatever that had cost him physically was plain on his face. Ava watched him and didn't say anything. Her own breath had gone shallow. That was real, she said. Yes. Your mother's alive. Not my mother. His. Henry Ross. Been with my father since before I was born. Ran our legitimate books when my father ran our less legitimate ones. He's 71, loyal as a dog, and scared of nothing, including me. He'll move your mother before sunrise. Okay. She'll be safe, Ava. She nodded. She didn't trust her voice. I'm going to close my eyes for a minute, he said. That took everything I had. If the door opens, I am asleep. I have been asleep. Nothing happened. Do you understand? Yes. Good girl. She didn't have time to decide how she felt about being called that, because his eyes had already closed, and the lines of his face had smoothed into the mask she had spent 3 years looking at, and the phone was beside his hand on the blanket, and she picked it up and slid it into her pocket because she could not leave it where anyone could see it had moved. She stood at the foot of the bed. She looked at him. What have I just done? She didn't know. She went to the chair. She sat. She opened her clipboard. She began, with a hand that was shaking only a little, to chart her notes. At 4:47 in the morning, her phone buzzed against her hip. A number she didn't know. She slipped to the bathroom, locked the door, answered. Ms. Carter, said the old, rough voice she had heard an hour before. Your mother is now a resident of Ashfield Haven on Belmore Drive. A private ambulance collected her at 3:15. She is comfortable and sleeping. Her doctor on file has been retained. The front of house was told a family trust has taken over her care. Your sister has been notified. She is on her way to the new facility. No one has used your name. No one has used Mr. Kane's name. Will there be anything else? She leaned against the tiled wall of Riker Kane's private bathroom and slid down it all the way to the floor. No, she whispered. No, that's... Thank you. Ma'am. Yes. I don't know what you are to him, but I want you to understand that the phone call I received tonight was the first real order he has given in 3 years. And I want you to understand that whatever you have been doing in that room has mattered more than you know. Take care of him, please. The line went dead. Ava sat on the bathroom floor of a crime boss in the middle of the night, and she cried silently, with her hands pressed over her mouth. She cried for her mother, who tonight would sleep without pain for the first time in weeks. She cried for herself because she did not recognize the person she had been even 24 hours ago. And she cried because she already knew, in the part of her that did not lie to itself, that there was no walking back from this room now, that she had crossed a line so fine and so final that she had not even seen it move under her feet. When she came out of the bathroom, he was watching her. He didn't say anything. She didn't either. She went to the bed. She sat on the edge of it, the way she had the night before, because apparently this was a thing now, a thing she did now. Sit on the bed of a dangerous man at 4 a.m. and let him see her face. She's safe, Ava whispered. I know. You heard. I heard your phone. Okay. Okay. She looked at his mouth. She did not kiss him. She didn't. But she put her hand slowly and carefully on top of his hand on the blanket. His fingers were warm. They closed around hers, weakly but deliberately. Riker. I'm scared. I know. I don't know how to do this. You don't have to know yet. Tell me we're going to be okay. He was quiet. I won't lie to you, he said. She laughed, wet, and nodded against the back of her wrist, and she sat there with her hand in his while the machines beeped and the sky outside the window began to turn the color of old pearls, and somewhere on the other side of the door, Daniel Marsh was still standing with his hands in his pockets, not knowing that the man on the other side of the wall had just made his first move in 3 years, not knowing that the tired aide he had seen walk into room 1427 at the start of the shift was not the same woman who was going to walk out. The shift change came at 7. Ava let go of his hand. She stood up. She straightened the blanket. She smoothed her uniform. She did all the normal things. She picked up her clipboard. She walked to the door. Before she opened it, she looked back. He was asleep again. Or he was pretending to be. She couldn't tell anymore. She pushed through the door into the gray hallway. Victor was gone. A new man she didn't know was on the left side. Daniel Marsh was still on the right. "Morning," Daniel Marsh said, pleasant, soft.
"Morning," she said. "Long night?"
She stopped. She had not planned to stop. She stopped anyway. She looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time. He had pale eyes and a smooth jaw, and the kind of face you could not pick out of a crowd. She could see now, because she was looking for it, the way his eyes flicked down to her badge and up to her face in a single trained motion. A man cataloging. A man making sure she was the right woman. "Pretty quiet," she said. "He's a quiet one." "Yeah. Been a quiet 3 years."
He smiled. It was a nice smile. It did not touch his eyes. "You have a good morning, Miss Carter?" "You too." She walked away. She did not look back. She made her feet carry her at the same pace she had used for 3 years of mornings, past the nurse's station, into the elevator, down to the lobby, out into the dawn. It had stopped raining. The air smelled like wet concrete in a city coming awake. She walked 2 blocks to the bus stop. She sat on the bench. She waited for the number 14. She put her hand in her coat pocket and felt the hard rectangle of Riker Kane's phone against her fingers. A bus roared past. Not hers. She took a long breath, and far up on the 14th floor in room 1427, a man who had been presumed lost for 3 years opened his gray eyes in a dim, cold room and stared at the ceiling and began, very slowly, to flex the toes of his right foot, one at a time, counting them, because the countdown had started and he was going to need them to work. The bus came. She got on. She rode it all the way to the end of the line, and then she rode it back because her stop had passed and she hadn't noticed, and by the time she finally pushed through the door of her building, the sun was full up and the hallway smelled like somebody's microwaved eggs. She climbed the 4 flights. She locked the 3 deadbolts. She pulled Riker Kane's phone out of her pocket and set it on the kitchenette counter and stared at it like it was an animal that might decide at any moment to bite her. She didn't sleep. She lay on the mattress with her arm over her eyes, and she didn't sleep. At some point around 11, her sister called and she let it go to voicemail. And then she sat up and listened to it, and her sister's voice was wet and confused. "Av, where are you? Mom got moved in the middle of the night. Some ambulance service I've never heard of. This place is unbelievable. It's got a garden. She's got her own room. There's a nurse in there full time." The woman at the desk said, "A family trust authorized everything." And I said, "What family trust?" And she said, "I wasn't authorized to know, Av. What's happening? Did you do something? Please call me." Ava played it twice, then 3 times. Then she deleted it because she didn't know how to hear her own name in her sister's voice yet without wanting to throw up. She texted back, "I'll explain when I see you. Mom's safe. That's the only thing that matters right now." Her sister texted back 3 dots for a long time. Then, "Okay, I love you. Call me when you can. I love you too." She put the phone face down on the floor and lay back and finally, fell into the kind of sleep that was less rest than a shallow bodiless fall. She dreamed about her mother's hands. She dreamed about gray eyes. She dreamed about a hallway that got longer the farther she walked, and a door at the end of it that she couldn't decide whether she wanted to open. She woke up at 4 in the afternoon with a headache that lived behind her left eye and the certainty that she had to go back. That was the thing that scared her the most. Not the deal, not the phone, not the money she'd never asked for that had already paid for a private ambulance. It was the pull. It was the absolute bodily certainty, when she opened her eyes in that shabby little studio, that she had to be in that room tonight and that nothing else she did today mattered until she was. She got up. She showered again. She ate a piece of toast standing over the sink. She put Riker's phone in the inner pocket of her coat, the one with the zipper. She went to work 2 hours early. It turned out it was a good thing she did. When she stepped off the elevator on 14, the hall was not quiet. There were people standing around outside 1427. 2 suits she didn't recognize. A woman in a long camel coat. Dr. Halloran, in scrubs, his hair still messy from whatever bed they'd pulled him out of. Victor was there, but not by the door. Victor was at the end of the hall, arms folded, jaw tight, watching everything. Ava stopped, turned toward the nurse's station like that had been her plan all along. Cheryl was gone.
Dana was back. Dana looked up and her whole face said finally, "Somebody I can talk to," and she gestured Ava closer, fast. "Carter, hey, hey, what's happening?" Family came in around 2. Family? His brother, the other Kane, and a lawyer and some woman, maybe the brother's wife. They've been in that room for over an hour. Ava's stomach twisted. What for?
They're asking about reviewing, I don't know, care status. They brought their own physician. Halloran's pissed. The whole thing is... Dana lowered her voice. Something's up. I don't like it. I don't like that brother. He's been here 4 times in 3 years and now twice in a week. Twice.
He came Tuesday, didn't go in the room, just stood in the hall with one of his men and looked at the door, looked at the floor, like he was measuring it. I thought he was going to ask something. He didn't. He left. Okay, Carter, listen. When you go in there tonight, just be careful. Chart everything. Don't make eye contact with the brothers people. If anybody asks you questions, say, "I don't know, I'm just an aide." Say it to everybody. Say it to the lawyer. Don't answer anything direct. You understand me? I understand you. Dana looked at her for a second longer. Are you okay? I'm fine. You don't look fine. I'm fine, Dana. I swear, just tired. Dana didn't buy it, but she let it go. She never pushed past what you gave her. That was one of the things Ava loved about her. Go put your stuff down. They'll be out in a minute. Ava went to the break room. She took off her coat. She zipped Riker's phone deeper into the inner pocket. She hung the coat on the hook behind the door with the others, and she stood there for a second, breathing in the smell of cheap coffee and old microwave popcorn and trying to make her hands stop being cold. When she came back into the hallway, the door to 1427 was opening. A man stepped out first. He was tall, not as tall as the man in the bed, not quite, but close. And he looked enough like Riker that Ava felt a small hot drop of fear go down the back of her neck. Same long face, same gray eyes. But these eyes had something different in them. Something restless and bright where Riker's were flat and patient. A hunger that didn't know how to sit still. He wore a charcoal suit cut beautifully. His shoes had never seen a puddle. Marcus Kane. Behind him came a woman in the camel coat. Mid-30s, honey blonde, stunning in the hard way some women could be stunning. A face you noticed and then didn't want to look at a second time, because the first look had told you everything you needed. She was holding Marcus's arm the way you hold a leash you are pretending is a bracelet. The lawyer came out after them. Then Dr. Halloran, who looked like he had bitten something sour. Marcus was speaking low as they came down the hall. Appreciate you humoring us, doctor. We just want to be sure. 3 years is a long time for a family to stay in limbo. 3 years is also a long time to jump to conclusions, Mr. Kane. Oh, I don't jump, I just plan. A man in his condition, you'd want to be responsible. Contingencies. We have contingencies. They're on file. They have been on file. They were nearly past the nurse's station when Marcus Kane stopped. He stopped because he had seen Ava. She felt it first as a change in the air. She was pretending to fill out a form at the desk. She did not look up, but she knew, Animal knew, that his eyes had landed on her. She kept her pen moving. Dr. Halloran, Marcus said, not taking his eyes off her. Is this one of his regulars? Halloran glanced. That's Ms. Carter, one of our nurse's aides. She's been on his night care since the beginning. The beginning? 3 years, near as? Marcus moved closer. Just a step. Close enough that Ava could smell him now, some expensive woodsy cologne, and underneath it, a sharp, clean chemical smell that didn't belong to cologne. Miss Carter, she looked up. She made her face into the face she had used at the hospice reception desk, at the plasma center, at the grocery store when the card had been declined. The face that said, I am a quiet, tired woman of no interest to anybody. Yes. I'm Marcus Kane. I'm the patient's brother. Hello. I understand you've been caring for him for some time. 3 years about, yes. That's a long time with one patient. He doesn't move around much. Marcus smiled. Ava felt the smile all the way down into her back teeth. No, he said. No, I suppose he doesn't. The woman on his arm said nothing. She was studying Ava the way a cat studies a bird through a window. Polite. Curious.
Not hostile, just measuring.
Anything unusual? Marcus asked. In your time with him? Anything we should know? Unusual how, sir? Anything at all? Changes, responses, movement, sounds? No, sir. No twitches? No, sir. Not even a, involuntary reflex? Anything? They do range of motion on him every day, sir. Arms, legs. His body moves when we move it. That's all I've ever seen him do. She held his eyes. She held them because she had read, somewhere a long time ago, that the people who lied best were the ones who looked right at you when they did it. She had never been able to do it before. She didn't know if she was doing it now, but she made herself count in her head. 1, 2, 3, 4, and she did not look away. All right, Marcus said finally. Thank you, Miss Carter. You're welcome, sir. We may have further questions. Of course, sir. He gave her a small nod, and the two of them moved on down the hall, and the lawyer trailed after them, and Halloran followed with his arms crossed like a man wanting to hit something. The elevator doors swallowed them a moment later. Ava stared at the pen in her hand. It had stopped making marks on the paper 40 seconds ago. She had pressed so hard that the tip had bent. She dropped it. It rolled off the edge of the counter and clattered on the floor. Carter. Yeah. Breathe. I'm breathing. You are not breathing. You are holding your breath in a very convincing way. Ava exhaled. Yeah, she said. Listen to me, Dana said quietly. You do the shift. You keep your head down. You go home. Tomorrow, we talk about whether you want to put in for a transfer. I know people in pediatrics. Pediatrics is a nightmare, but it is a clean nightmare. You understand me? I understand you. She did not put in for a transfer. She went down the hall. Victor stepped away from the door as she came up. He looked at her, and the look was different tonight. Not friendlier. More focused, like a man who had started watching something and was waiting to see it move again. Evening, sunshine. Hey, Vic. He didn't swipe his card right away. Long afternoon up here. I heard. Victor tipped his head back, not toward the door, toward the direction Marcus had gone. Is not my favorite cane. Uh-huh. Just so you know. Ava looked at him. Which cane is your favorite? Victor smiled. It was a small, private, tired smile. For a moment, he was not a man with a gun under his jacket. He was a father in Ohio who hadn't seen his daughter in too long. The one that hired me, he said, 15 years ago, in a diner, and looked me in the eye and told me he'd never ask me to do anything he wouldn't do himself. He swiped his card. Have a good shift, kid. She stepped through. The door hissed closed behind her. Riker was lying as she had left him. Still. Composed. But his chest was rising a little too fast, and his right hand was closed into a fist under the blanket, and there was sweat at his hairline. Lock the bathroom, he said, without opening his eyes. His voice was more effortful tonight, tighter. She went. She locked it. She came back. Are you okay? No? What happened? My brother sat in that chair and talked to me for 45 minutes. Oh, God. He sat exactly where you sit. He crossed his legs. He called me little brother. He told me about a boat he was thinking of buying. He asked me if I remembered the trip our father took us on to Big Bear when I was 9. He told me our mother has started asking when I'm coming home for dinner because she forgets. He told me he misses me. Riker's jaw moved. He held my hand at the end. Riker. He knows. He can't. He doesn't know how. But he knows something. He could smell it in the room. He used to fish with me when we were kids, and he has always been able to tell when the line is about to go tight. That is what he was doing today. He was watching the line. Oh my... Oh. She caught the god before it got all the way out. Okay. I didn't move. I didn't swallow when he spoke. I didn't flinch when he touched my wrist. I made my breathing slow. I emptied my face. It almost broke me, Ava. It almost broke me. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Be here. I'm here. Sit. She sat on the edge of the bed. She took his fisted right hand between both of hers, and she worked her thumbs slow against the tendons of his forearm, and she felt the fist loosen finger by finger until his hand was hers. Marcus is going to move in the next week, he said. How do you know? The wife came with him. The blonde. Lillian. They have been separated for 2 years. She has not publicly appeared beside him since the split. She came today because he wants to look like a stable family man, because he is about to ask a court for something or pay somebody to sign something, and he needs the pictures to be right. He's going to get you declared incapacitated.
That's one of the two things he might do. What's the other? He was quiet. Riker. What's the other? He might just have me killed. She closed her eyes. He can't, she said. There are cameras. There are doctors. People would know. There are no cameras in this room that his money hasn't reached. Halloran is honest. The residents rotate. Daniel Marsh stands outside that door 4 nights a week. It takes 30 seconds to push a syringe into an IV line. It takes 3 minutes for my heart to stop. It takes 20 for a crash team to give up. The death certificate would say coma, pneumonia, organ failure, take your pick. Nobody would order an autopsy because a comatose man dying of complications is not news. Riker. I know. Riker. I know, Ava. She set his hand down. She got up. She walked to the window. She pressed her palms against the glass, and she looked at a city she couldn't see for the dark. And she breathed through her nose the way her mother used to tell her to when she was little and scared. What do you need? She said, without turning. I need to get out of this bed. You can barely move. I know. That's why I need help. I need to walk before he moves. I don't need to be fast. I just need to be able to stand up, get to a door, and get into a car. Anything past that, my people can handle. Henry's been quietly pulling my assets back under my direct control for the last 12 hours. My lawyer's drafting a revocation of any proxy authority Marcus thought he had. I have 7 men outside this building who don't know I'm awake and who would walk through a wall for me if they did. I just need to reach them. Just ski. How long? 4 days. Maybe 5. You don't have 4 days. I know. She turned around. Then what? Then we cheat. Cheat how? We make Marcus think I'm worse. She stared at him. What do you mean? I mean, tomorrow morning when you chart a decline. Minor. Nothing that triggers an intervention. Slight drop in oxygen saturation. Slight increase in heart rate variability. Enough that Halloran asks questions, but not enough to bring a team in here. You do that for 2 days. I'll manage the monitors from my side. I can slow my heart rate by 6 or 7 beats if I work at it. By the 3rd day, Marcus hears that I'm declining. He decides to wait. A man who is already dying on his own doesn't need to be killed. He backs off just long enough for me to stand up. Great. You want me to falsify medical records? Yes. Riker. They will end my career. They will not catch you. The variability is within normal range. No one will flag it. I have done this kind of thing before, Ava. I haven't. He was quiet. You can say no, he said. This is the part where you can say no. I told you I wouldn't ask you to do anything that got you arrested. Technically, this would not get you arrested, but it would end your license, and if it ever came back on you in a civil case, you'd lose everything you have ever worked for. I want you to understand that clearly before you answer. She stood at the window. She turned her head and looked at him. The lamp lit half his face. If I don't do this, you die. Probably. Probably. Almost certainly. Okay. Ava? I said okay. Are you sure? Don't ask me twice. I'll lose my nerve. He didn't ask her twice. She came back to the bed. She sat on the edge of it again. Her hands were shaking. She put them under her thighs. 2 days, she said. That's all you need. 2 days of decline. Then a small recovery on day 3, so no team rushes in. Day 4, I try to sit up. Day 5, I get out of here. How do you get out? Service elevator, loading dock, car waiting. Henry's already arranged it. He knew I'd call. He knew. Henry knows me. Who else knows? That I'm awake? You. Henry. Now my driver, who Henry told this morning, because my driver is the kind of man who needs a day to get over being told something like this or he'll wreck the car. That's it. Not your mother. My mother would tell Marcus inside of 24 hours. Your own mother. My mother loves both of us, Ava. She has spent 3 years trying to hold the family together. If she knew I was awake, she would bring us into a room to talk. She would mean well. She would get me killed. Jesus. Yes.
Ava looked at the floor. She thought about her own mother, in a new bed in a garden facility, sleeping for once without pain. She looked up. "Okay," she said. "Tell me what numbers to fake." He told her. They worked through it twice. She memorized the small shifts, a 2% drop in one reading, a 4-point bump in another, variability patterns small enough to look like drift and not distress. He drilled her on what to say to Halloran if asked, the kind of things an exhausted aide would say after a quiet night. Slept through. Vitals stable, tiny waves in SAT. I flagged it, logged it, figured someone would want to know. He made her say it to him. He made her say it twice. He corrected her eye contact. He told her where to stand. He told her not to volunteer. By the time they were done, it was past 1 in the morning, and he was pale under his tan, and his right hand had started to shake on its own. She got him water through a straw, slowly, because swallowing was still a skill his throat was relearning. He closed his eyes while he drank. When he opened them again, they were softer than she had seen them yet. "Thank you," he said quietly. "Don't. Ava. Don't thank me. I can't take you thanking me. Not right now." "Okay." She sat on the edge of the bed. She was exhausted. Her whole body felt like it had been wrung out. She put her hand on his again, and this time neither of them pretended there was a clinical reason for it. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Yes." "Who did you used to be?" He almost smiled. "What do you mean?" "Before this, before the bed, before 3 years. What kind of man were you?" He thought about it. "A worse one," he said. "That's not an answer. It's the only one I can give you honestly tonight. Were you kind?" "Sometimes." "Were you cruel?" "Sometimes." "Did people love you?" "My father did. My mother did. A woman named Elise did for a while, and then stopped, which was fair." He paused. "A man named Henry did, in the way that a man like Henry does. A dog named Bo did, before he died. Nobody else. That's not a lot of people." "No, it isn't." "Riker." "Yes? Do you want there to be more?" He looked at her a long time. "I think that's what's frightening me," he said. Her throat closed. "Okay," she whispered. The door handle turned. Ava did not know how she moved as fast as she did. Later, trying to reconstruct it, she would not be able to. She had her hand off his. She had her body at the chair. She had her clipboard in her lap. She had her face composed, tired, bored, her pen moving, all in less time than it took for the door to swing inward. It wasn't Victor. It wasn't Dana. It wasn't Halloran. It was Daniel Marsh. He stepped inside. He closed the door behind him. He stood just inside it and looked at her. Ava kept writing. She made her pen keep moving. She made her eyes stay on the paper. She made her hand not tremble. She did not look up. "Miss Carter." "Hi. Everything all right in here?" "Fine. Mind if I take a look at him?" I'm sorry?" "His brother asked me to do a check every few hours. Family's concerned." She forced her eyes up, slowly, tired, not alarmed, just annoyed the way an aide is annoyed when anybody interrupts her charting. "You're not medical," she said. "No." "Then I can't let you touch him." "I'm not going to touch him." "You can't be in the room without a medical escort, hospital policy." "I think Mr. Kane's family and the hospital have an understanding on policy." He took a step toward the bed. Ava stood up. She was tiny compared to him. She knew it. He knew it. It didn't matter. She stepped into the space between him and the bed like stepping was the easiest thing she had ever done. "You need to leave," she said. "Excuse me. You are not a doctor. You are not charted as a family member. You are a security contractor. I am the aide on shift. I am not authorized to have a non-medical, non-family man in this room without Dr. Halloran present, and Dr. Halloran is not present. You need to leave and come back with him or with Mr. Kane's brother. Ms. Carter, I will call the charge nurse." Something flickered behind his eyes. Just for a second. The pleasantness slipped. What was under it was not pleasant. Then he smiled. "Of course," he said. "You're right. I'll go get the doctor." "Thank you." He moved toward the door. He paused with his hand on it. He turned his head just a little. "You care a lot about this patient," he said. "For an aide." "I do my job." 3 years, same patient. That's unusual. Hospitals are short-staffed. They are. They are. Still, you're devoted. He's a human being. Daniel Marsh looked at the bed. He looked at Riker. He looked at Riker for a second too long. Then he looked at her. Good night, Ms. Carter. He opened the door. He stepped out. The door closed. Ava stood in the middle of the room and felt her knees try very hard to quit. She locked them. She made herself breathe. She counted to 10. She counted to 20. She walked to the bathroom, locked the door, sat on the closed toilet with her hands between her knees, and let her whole body shake for 60 seconds. When the minute was up, she stood, splashed cold water on her face, dried it, and walked back out. Riker had not opened his eyes. Riker. I heard. Oh my. Stop saying that. Sorry, I know. You did good, Ava. I almost threw up on him. You did good. Riker, he was going to push something into the line. He had a syringe in his left sleeve. I saw the corner of it when he moved his arm. Her stomach rolled over. He tried. Tonight. Marcus sent him. Marcus decided today, while he was sitting in that chair, that I was too much of a risk to leave alive another week. He told Daniel to move tonight. Daniel came in to see if the room was empty. You were in it? You told him no. He's going to come back. Not tonight. How do you know? Because now he has to tell Marcus that the aid is a problem. Marcus will want to think about that. Marcus likes to think. I bought us a day. A day. Maybe 2. It's enough. It's not enough, Riker. Your hand is shaking. You can't. It's enough. She crossed to the bed. She took his right hand. She held it tight between both of hers, pressing the tremor out of it with her grip, and she sat on the edge of the bed beside him, and she did not care who had a camera where. We're moving up the timeline. Yes. Tomorrow night. Yes. Riker, you can't. I will. You can't walk. I don't need to walk. I need to get to a wheelchair. Henry will be in the loading dock by 2 in the morning. Victor has been loyal since before you were born. I'll tell Victor 10 minutes before we go. He'll clear the stairwell. My driver takes me out. You go home through the front like every other night. Like every other night? Yes. Riker. Yes. I'm going with you. He was quiet. No. Yes. Ava, they'll come for whoever helped me. The first person they'll come for is the night aide on shift. You need to be in your apartment tomorrow morning. You need to be sleeping when they come asking. You need to look surprised. I can't act that well. You can. Riker. I'm not bringing you into this. I told you I wouldn't ask you to do anything that ruined your life. You already have. The words dropped between them like a coin on tile. He looked at her. I know, he said quietly. I'm sorry. She shook her head. I'm not asking you to apologize. I'm telling you the truth. You already have. So stop pretending I have a life to go back to that doesn't have you in it, because if you're going to lie to me about that, then the whole thing falls apart. He was silent a long time. Stay tomorrow, he said finally. Do the shift. When I go, out the back, with me. Henry will be expecting one of us. He'll make it 2. Okay. Ava. Yeah. If this goes wrong, it won't. If it does, Riker, listen to me. If it does, you take the phone out of your coat pocket, you drop it in a river, and you tell every person who asks that you had no idea, that you just did your job, that you're a tired aide who didn't notice anything. You cry. You let them comfort you. You go home. Do you hear me? I hear you. Promise me. I promise. Good. She looked at him. He looked back. Her hand was still holding his. The heart monitor beeped on and on and on, steady now, steadier than it had been in 3 years, because the man inside the body was alive and paying attention and pushing back. And outside the door, the hallway was quiet for the moment, and the city below the window had gone to sleep or was pretending to. And somewhere in a garden facility across town, a woman named Maureen Carter was breathing slow and even for the first night in a long time. Ava leaned down. She did not kiss him. She pressed her forehead against his, light, for 1 second, because she needed to and because she wasn't going to apologize for needing to anymore, and his free hand came up, shaking, slow, half obedient, and rested on the back of her neck. "Tomorrow," she whispered. "Tomorrow," he said. She straightened. She wiped her face on her sleeve. She sat in the chair. She picked up the clipboard. She began, in a hand that was steady now, to chart the first small lie of the rest of her life. The lie took exactly 14 seconds to write. She sat in that leather chair with a clipboard in her lap, and she watched her own hand put down the numbers Riker had made her memorize, and she thought about how 26 years of trying to do everything the right way could come apart in the length of a short commercial break. She didn't feel guilty. That was the strangest part. She had expected guilt, the way you expect a hangover after a night of cheap wine, and it wasn't there. What was there was something quieter, a hard, small weight under her breastbone, like a stone she had decided to carry. She finished the note. She dotted the last I. She put the pen down. Riker had closed his eyes. She didn't think he was asleep. She had learned in 2 days the difference between the face he used for the world and the face he had when he was actually gone. The first one was smoother. The second one was more like a child's, softer at the mouth, younger. Tonight he had the first one. He was listening to her breathe. She stood up quietly and went to do the last round of the shift. The rest of that night passed in a kind of trance. She changed an IV bag. She checked the catheter. She did the full range of motion on both of his arms and both of his legs, and when she did his right arm, she felt him push back just a little, a small returning pressure that had not been there the day before. She didn't say anything. He didn't either. The room was full of things neither of them said. At 6:55, she wrote "end of shift" in the margin of the chart and signed her initials. At 7, the new aide came in, a quiet woman named Patricia, who had worked on this floor longer than Ava had been alive. Patricia asked how the night had gone. Ava said quiet. A little drift in the SAT numbers flagged it in the notes. Patricia nodded and said she'd keep an eye. Ava picked up her bag and left. She did not look at Riker before she walked out. She had learned that too. Outside in the hall, Daniel Marsh was gone. A new man was on the right side of the door, a stranger with thick, dark eyebrows and a bored expression, and he didn't look at her when she passed. Victor was on the left. Victor caught her eye for exactly 1 second and gave her a nod so small she could have imagined it. She imagined it. Maybe. At the nurse's station, Dana was off, and Cheryl was back, and Cheryl made her sign out twice because the first signature wasn't clear enough, and Ava used the extra 30 seconds to listen. There was talk. There was always talk at that desk. The physician's assistant on the morning rotation was saying something to Cheryl about Dr. Halloran being in a meeting with the hospital's lawyers that had started at 5:30 a.m. Something about the Kane family requesting a guardianship evaluation on an expedited basis. Something about outside counsel arriving at 9. Guardianship? The PA was whispering. After 3 years? Now? I just pulled the charts, honey. Ava kept her face still. She handed back the pen. She walked to the elevator. She rode down. She pushed out into the street. It was a gray morning, the kind that couldn't decide whether to rain, the kind she had walked into 1,000 times after 1,000 shifts, with her shoes sticking to the sidewalk and her eyes burning, and she had always felt, those 1,000 mornings, that nothing that had happened inside the hospital mattered once she was outside it, that the two worlds were sealed off from each other, and she could pretend for 8 hours that she was somebody who didn't spend her nights under fluorescent lights listening to other people's machines. This morning, the world didn't seal off. This morning, the hospital came with her. She walked 2 blocks. She did not take the bus. She didn't think she could sit still. She kept moving. She passed a diner and thought about going in and then remembered she wasn't hungry and kept walking. She passed a payphone that hadn't worked in 10 years. She passed a man sleeping in a doorway under a sleeping bag that had been white once. She walked until her feet hurt, and then she walked more. And when she finally looked up, she was standing in front of Ashfield Haven on Belmore Drive, where her mother was. She didn't remember deciding to go there. She stood across the street for 10 minutes before she could make herself cross. The lobby was what Dana would have called a hotel lobby with a quieter soundtrack. Light wood, a fountain. A woman at the desk who smiled without asking a single question, who took her name and nodded when she said Maureen Carter's daughter, who buzzed her through a door that opened into a corridor of rooms so quiet it didn't seem like anyone could possibly be dying in them. Room 6. The door was ajar. Her sister was in there. Her sister, whose name was Lauren, who was 3 years older and the kind of oldest child who had spent her life trying to keep their mother alive and their rent paid, and Ava from doing the things Ava did. Lauren looked up when the door opened, and her face did the whole thing at once. Relief, anger, love, confusion, and she stood and crossed the room and pulled Ava into a hug without a word. Their mother was asleep. She looked better. That was the part that broke Ava a little. Their mother, who had looked like death warmed over in the Linden Street bed 36 hours ago, was sleeping the deep, quiet sleep of a woman whose pain had been properly managed for the first time in months. Her color was less yellow. Her mouth was soft. There was a vase of actual flowers on the nightstand. Not grocery store carnations, real flowers. Something with green leaves and small white blooms that Ava didn't know the name of.
Av, Lauren said, very quietly. What did you do?
Ava stared at their mother.
I didn't have a lot of choices, she said.
AV.
Lauren, please. I can't. Not right now. Did you... Are you in trouble? I don't know yet.
Jesus, Ava!
I know.
Is it dangerous?
I don't know yet.
Is this about that man?
Ava looked at her.
What?
At the hospital. That one you take care of. Mom's been worrying about you for months. You talk about him more than you think you do. You don't even realize you're doing it. You say his name in your sleep on the couch at Christmas.
Ava's eyes filled.
I don't want to talk about it.
AV?
I'm not going to lie to you. I can't. So I'm not going to talk about it.
When it's over, I'll tell you. When it's over.
When what's over?
Ava didn't answer.
Lauren looked at her a long time. Lauren had their mother's eyes, the same hazel Ava had, but set deeper, more tired. You know I love you, she said finally. Yeah. I don't care what you did. I'm on your side. I just want to hear you say you're okay. I don't know if I am. Okay? I don't know, Lauren. Okay? Okay, come here.
Lauren pulled her into another hug and held her. Ava let her. She put her face against her sister's shoulder, and she breathed, and she let herself lean just for a minute on the only person in the world who had loved her longer than Riker Kane had been in a coma. She stayed 20 minutes. Her mother didn't wake up. She kissed her mother's forehead and told her she loved her and whispered something close to her ear that she would not remember saying, some small promise, some small wish. And then she left. She went home. She set a timer on her phone. She slept 4 hours, hard, the exhausted sleep of a body that has decided to shut down because the mind refuses to. She woke up at 3 in the afternoon. She showered. She put on the uniform. She packed a small bag, a change of clothes, her mother's old bracelet, a photograph of her sister at 8 with a missing front tooth, the little notebook where she wrote down her rent receipts. And she stood in the middle of her studio and looked around at a life that had been hers up to about 20 seconds ago. She didn't cry. She took Riker's phone out of the drawer where she had hidden it. She put it in the inner pocket of her coat. She zipped the coat. She locked the 3 deadbolts for the last time from the inside. She went to work. At 6:15, she stepped off the elevator on 14. The hallway was different. There were more suits, 2 new ones standing near the vending machines who hadn't been there yesterday. A woman with a clipboard and a hospital badge Ava didn't recognize, talking quietly to Halloran near the far end of the corridor. A man in a gray jacket, not hospital staff, not obvious security, just a man, reading a newspaper in one of the hallway chairs across from 1427. Nobody read newspapers anymore. That was the detail her brain caught. Nobody read newspapers in hospital hallways in the year of whatever year this was. She walked to the nurse's station. Dana was there. Dana looked up, and the second she saw Ava's face, her own face closed. Carter. Hey, Dana? Back room, now. Ava followed her. The break room was empty. Dana shut the door behind them and turned around and kept her voice low. What did you do? What? What did you do? The hospital lawyers are here. Halloran's been in a conference room for 6 hours. 2 different outside attorneys have come through this floor today. Marcus Kane has filed for emergency guardianship of his brother. There's a judge reviewing it in the morning. And the brother's people are asking for the charts from your shifts. Your shifts, Carter. By name. Yesterday, the night before, all the way back. They want every note you have ever written on this patient. Ava's stomach turned over. Okay. Okay? Okay? Ava? I didn't. She stopped. She started again. I did my job, Dana. Did you? I did my job. Don't do this. Don't do this with me. I have known you for 3 years. I have watched you take extra shifts. I have watched you cry at this desk. I have covered for you twice when you needed to go see your mother. Do not stand in this room and lie to me. Ava's throat closed. I'm not lying to you. Then what is going on? I can't tell you. Carter? Dana, I swear to God, I swear I can't tell you. I want to. I can't. It's not safe. Safe? Yes. Dana stared at her. Okay, Dana said, quieter. Okay. I need to go do my shift. You're going to go do your shift. You're going to chart carefully. You are not going to say anything to anyone outside of me. If anyone asks you a question tonight that is not about that man's vital signs, you're going to say, I don't know. I'm just an aide. You need to speak to my charge nurse. And you are going to write down the name and time of anyone who asks you anything. You understand me? Yes. And Carter? Yeah. If at any point you decide you can tell me, I'll listen. I'll help. I don't care what you did. I'll help you. Ava couldn't speak. She nodded. Dana squeezed her arm once, hard. Let go. Go. Ava went. The hallway was colder now, or maybe that was her skin. She walked toward room 1427. The man in the gray jacket turned a page of his newspaper as she passed. She did not look at him. Victor was at the door. Victor and a stranger, not Daniel Marsh, another man she didn't know, younger, thin, sharp face. Victor met her eyes for half a second. He did it, again, so small she could have imagined it. A nod. He swiped the door. She stepped through. Riker was awake. He was not pretending. He had his eyes open. He was watching the door. When she came in, he closed them immediately, snapped them shut like a man practicing a drill, and his head fell to the side on the pillow, and anyone watching on a feed would have seen a comatose patient in exactly the position he had been in for 3 years. Audio's off, he said, when the door had shut. How do you know? Henry had it taken down an hour ago. The cameras still show video. There's no sound going to anyone. How did he? Don't ask. Come here. She came to the bed. Sit. She sat. Look at me. She looked at him. His color was bad. Worse than it had been the night before. There was sweat at his hairline again, and his breathing was shallow, and when he lifted his right hand to take hers, it shook so hard he had to drop it. I got worse during the day, he said. I couldn't hold the mask up the whole time. There were too many people in and out. My body is fighting me. Jesus, Riker. I'll make it. When? 2 a.m. Henry will be in the loading dock, wheelchair in the utility closet at the end of this hall. Victor will clear the stairwell at 1:55. I'll need 3 minutes to get from this bed to that chair. You're going to help me. Okay? You have your things? Yes. Good. Riker? Yes. Daniel Marsh. He's not on tonight. I know. I saw. Marcus took him off, pulled him back. The guardianship petition goes in front of a judge at 9 tomorrow morning. Marcus doesn't want to risk a murder tonight if he's going to get me legally and bloodlessly in the morning. So he thinks he's winning. He thinks he's winning. He thinks he has until tomorrow to do nothing. That's the only reason we have a window. Okay. Ava. Yeah. I need you to do one thing for me before 2 a.m. What? I need you to walk out of this room at 9, like you're going on break, and I need you to go to the chapel on the 4th floor, and I need you to make a call from a phone I'm going to give you. Not your phone, not my phone, a third phone. You'll make one call. You'll say one sentence. You'll hang up. You'll come back. What sentence? The lamp is lit. That's it. That's it. Riker, who am I calling? A man I trust. What is he going to do? He's going to make sure that when Henry's car leaves the loading dock at 2:15 tonight, no car follows it out of this city. She closed her eyes. Okay. Ava, look at me. She looked at him. You don't have to do this part. This one you can say no to. I'm asking, not telling. Give me the phone. He reached, slow and shaking, under his pillow. He pulled out a flip phone. Old, cheap, a burner. 4th floor chapel. It's empty at 9. There are no cameras in it. Dial the number that's already in. Wait for the voice to say yes. Say the sentence. Hang up. Destroy the phone afterward. Break it in half in the bathroom and flush the SIM. Okay, come back here. Do your shift. Act tired. Be tired. At 1:45, I'm going to start pretending to code. My heart rate will drop. An alarm will trip. The team will come in. You'll do CPR. I'll come back just enough for them to call it a near arrest. You'll insist on staying with me. They'll let you. They'll step out to talk to Halloran. In those minutes, Victor will come in. He'll help me out of bed. You'll help me with the chair. We'll go. Riker. Yes.
What if I can't do CPR on you? You can. What if I hurt you? You won't. Riker. Ava. What if I break a rib? He looked at her. He actually, very faintly, smiled. I've had worse. That's not funny. It's a little funny. It's not. She laughed, wet. She pressed the heel of her hand into her eye and laughed again. Okay, she said. Okay. She took the phone. She put it in the same inner pocket as the other one. Her coat was now very heavy with the weight of burner phones and other people's lives. At 8:50, she stood up, said to the empty room that she was going to grab a coffee, and walked out. She took the stairs to the 4th floor. The chapel was a small room with 3 rows of pews and a stained glass window that was just a pattern. No scene, no figure, just the suggestion of light. It was empty. She sat in the back pew. She took out the flip phone. She opened it. She hit the 1 number in the call log. It rang once. Yes. It was a woman's voice, middle-aged, calm, not warm. The lamp is lit, Ava said. Understood. The line went dead. Ava closed the phone. She went into the chapel's small bathroom. She broke the phone in half against the edge of the sink. It took 3 tries. Her hands weren't cooperating. She pulled the SIM out of the wreckage, snapped it, and flushed it. She threw the plastic halves in the trash under a paper towel. She washed her hands. She went back to room 1427. At 9:45, Halloran came in, unannounced, and stood at the foot of the bed for 10 minutes looking at the chart, and then at the machines, and then at the patient, and then at her. He did not ask her any questions. He did not say anything. He left. At 11:30, the charge nurse came in to ask if she wanted to be rotated out. Ava said no. The charge nurse said she'd have to put it in writing that Ava had refused a break. Ava said that was fine. The charge nurse looked at her like she might be cracking up. Ava did not blame her. At 12, her phone buzzed in her pocket, her personal one. She checked it under the clipboard. Lauren. Mom woke up for a bit. She said your name, just wanted you to know. Ava pressed her palm flat over her mouth for a second. Tell her I love her, she typed. Tell her I'll see her soon. She sent it. She put the phone away. At 1:40, she stood up from the chair. You ready? She whispered. Yes. I'm scared, Riker. I know. If this goes wrong, then drop the phone in a river, like we said. Don't die on me. I won't. Swear it. Ava. Swear it. I swear. At 1:44, Riker closed his eyes and began to do the thing she was not going to understand until later. Some trained, focused thing, some trick of breath and heart, whatever he had been practicing for 3 years alone in that bed. His heart rate dropped. 80, 72, 65, 58. The monitor's tone changed. It was still steady, but lower. A second later, an alarm tripped on the oxygen saturation. At 1:45, another alarm went off. At 1:46, the door flew open. The night resident came in first, a kid named Harper, who looked about 12 and was very good at his job. A nurse Ava didn't know came in right behind him. They moved fast. They moved correctly. Harper called for a team. Ava, who had been trained for this once and had not done it in 3 years, said in a shaking voice his rate just dropped out of the 70s 6 minutes ago, and Harper said thanks, stay with me, stay on his left, and she did. Riker's breathing slowed. His lips went a shade paler. Harper said, okay, we're losing him. Start chest compressions. Ava did not do the compressions. The nurse did. She did them well. Ava stood at the left side, her hand on Riker's, her eyes on his face, and she watched him be compressed and pressed and worked on.
and she thought, I'm going to remember this exact 60 seconds for the rest of my life. Harper pushed Epi. Riker's heart rate came back up.
70, 78, 80, 86. Harper let out a breath. Okay. We've got him.
Hold compressions. Let's not lose him again. Let me get Halloran. He went for the phone on the wall. The nurse stepped back, panting, pushing hair out of her eyes. Harper said over his shoulder, Ms. Carter, right? Can you stay with him? I need to call Halloran and get a plan together. 5 minutes. Yes. Don't move him. Watch the monitor. If the rate drops below 70, hit this. He pointed. Got it. Harper and the nurse stepped out. The door closed. The second it did, Riker opened his eyes. Now, he said. The door opened again, right away, and Ava's heart stopped. And it was Victor. Victor, moving fast for a man his size, carrying a folded wheelchair in one hand and a blanket in the other. He kicked the wheelchair open with one boot. He threw the blanket across the seat. 2 minutes and 30 seconds, he said. I put the stairwell exit alarm on loop. Henry's in the dock. Get up. I can't stand, Riker said. Not yet. Lift me. Victor lifted him. He did it like a man who had lifted bodies before, which he probably had. He slid an arm under Riker's back and another under his knees and got him out of the bed in one careful heave. Riker made a sound. It was a bad sound, like something inside him tearing quietly. Victor set him in the chair. Ava dragged the blanket over him. She yanked the IV line out of his hand and pressed a gauze pad against the bleed and taped it with her teeth because she couldn't wait. Go, Victor said. Go. Down the hall, left, last door before the exit, utility, then stairwell. I'll cover. If anybody comes up to me, you never left this room. Victor, Riker said. I know, boss. Thank you. Go. They went. Ava pushed the chair. The wheels were rubber, quiet. The hallway was empty. She had to walk past the nurse's station. She made herself walk normally. The night clerk looked up, a new one, not Dana, not Cheryl, some agency kid, and Ava said, Just taking him to imaging, Harper wants a repeat, and the kid blinked and looked at his screen and nodded. Orders meant nothing to him at 2 a.m. He was barely paying attention. She pushed past. She got to the utility door. She pulled it open. She pushed Riker in. She closed it behind them. She let out one shaky breath. Stairs, Riker rasped. Stairs, okay. Service elevator, through the back of utility, keys in the pocket on the chair. She found the key. She found the service elevator. She pushed him in. She hit B. The doors closed. The elevator dropped. They did not speak. Her hands were white on the handles of the chair. Riker's head was back against the rest. His eyes closed, and his chest was rising and falling much too fast. She thought for a second he was actually going to go into arrest, for real this time, and she almost said his name. She didn't. The elevator kept falling. 4, 3, 2, 1, B. The doors slid open. The loading dock was dim, lit by 2 yellow bulbs. Concrete. The smell of diesel. A black car with the engine running. A man standing beside the open back door. Older, 60-something, broad-shouldered, white hair cut like a military cut. He had a face that looked like it had not been young in a long time and had been fine with that. Sir, he said when he saw Riker, and his voice did something strange, broke a little in the middle, and he cleared it immediately and composed his face back into a professional mask. Henry. Sir? Help me in the car. Yes, sir. Henry came forward. He did the same thing Victor had done. He lifted Riker the way you lift someone you have been loyal to for a very long time. He slid him into the back seat. He arranged his legs. He tucked the blanket. He turned to Ava. Ms. Carter. Yes. Your bag. Yes, it's... She patted her coat. I have everything. Get in. She got in. The other side, behind the driver. Henry closed Riker's door. He closed hers. He walked around to the driver's seat. He got in. He put the car in drive. The car rolled forward, smooth, quiet, up the dock ramp, out into the alley, left, a right, 2 more turns. They were on a dark, wide street that Ava didn't know. The city was emptied out at this hour in a way she hadn't seen in years. Henry drove like a man who had been taught to drive by somebody who took driving very seriously, exactly the speed limit. No hurry. No signals held too long. Riker closed his eyes. "Did we get out?" he said. "We got out, sir," Henry said. Riker exhaled. His hand found Ava's on the seat between them. It was trembling. She closed hers over it. She held on. Henry drove them out of the city. The buildings thinned. The streetlights stretched farther apart. Rain started, soft, against the windshield. Henry turned the wipers on without asking anyone. After a while, Ava realized she was crying. She didn't know when she had started. She wiped her face. She looked out the window. The city was gone. They were on a highway. A long, dark highway with very few cars, and every few minutes a pair of headlights coming the other way, none of them following. A phone rang in the front. Henry picked up, listened, said, "Understood. Thank you." Hung up. He met Ava's eyes in the rear view. "No cars followed out of the city, miss," he said. "The person Mr. Kane asked you to call. She did her job." Ava could not speak. She nodded. Riker's thumb moved once over the back of her hand. "Ava." "Yeah." "You did it." "We did it." "Yes." She leaned her head back against the seat. Her whole body was shaking, still, the kind of shaking you do when the adrenaline starts to leave you all at once. She closed her eyes. She listened to the rain on the roof. She listened to the hum of the tires. She listened to the sound of Riker Kane breathing beside her, under his own power, in the backseat of a car on a highway at 3 o'clock in the morning, going somewhere she did not know to, with a man she had known for 4 days and loved for 3 years without knowing that's what she had been doing. She did not open her eyes for a long time. When she did, it was because the car had slowed. They were turning off the highway onto a narrow 2-lane road, tall dark trees on both sides. No other cars. The headlights found a long gravel drive. Henry turned onto it, crunch under the tires. Then, ahead, a low shape, a house by the look of it, set back, no lights burning except one on the porch. A safe house, an old one, somewhere that had been waiting. Riker's hand had gone slack in hers. She looked at him fast. His eyes were closed. His lips were parted. His chest was rising, barely, and there was a grayness in his skin that she did not like at all. "Henry," she said, and her voice was sharp now, professional, the voice she used at work. "Henry, pull up. Pull up to the door. He needs to be inside." "Yes, miss." "Is there a doctor here?" "There's a doctor waiting, miss." "Thank you." The car stopped. The porch light was brighter than she had realized. The front door opened before Henry had come around. A woman stood in the doorway in scrubs. Middle-aged, calm face. Henry lifted Riker out. Riker did not wake up. Ava got out on her side. She followed them up the steps. The woman in scrubs said, "This way, please," and led them down a hallway to a room that had been set up like a private hospital room. A real bed, real monitors, a real IV stand. There were 2 other men in the hallway, both of whom she did not know, both of whom nodded to her as she passed. Henry laid Riker on the bed. The woman in scrubs started hooking him up. She worked fast. Her hands were steady. She knew what she was doing. Ava stood just inside the doorway. Riker's eyes did not open. She watched the woman place electrodes. She watched the IV go in. She watched the monitor's tone steady. She watched the oxygen mask go over his face. Henry came to stand beside her. "Miss," he said quietly. "He's alive. He's weak. The doctor will tell us more in a few hours. There's a room made up for you down the hall. You should sleep." "I can't." "I know, but try." "Henry." "Yes, miss." "What happens now?" Henry looked at the man on the bed. The gray at his hairline caught the light. "Now," he said, "we keep him alive. And when he's strong enough, we deal with his brother." "And me?" Henry looked at her. "You, miss," he said. "You are whoever he tells us you are. For right now, you are our guest. And no one is going to come through that door at you without going through all of us first. Do you understand me?" "Yes." "All right." Henry's face softened a little. It was a face that did not soften often. "Go wash your face. Get out of that coat. There's tea in the kitchen. There's a woman named Rosa who runs this house, and she will feed you whether you want her to or not." "Okay."
You did good tonight, miss. Ava, she said. My name's Ava. She looked one more time at the man on the bed. His chest rose. His chest fell. The machine beeped. The machine beeped.
Somewhere in the city they had left behind, a judge would be waking up in a few hours to hear an emergency petition that was already out of date. Somewhere in that city, Marcus Kane would be sleeping, and at some point in the next few hours, someone was going to have to wake him up and tell him that his brother's bed was empty. Ava did not want to be there when that happened. She turned away from the door. She walked down the hall. The house smelled like cedar and old coffee and rain. A woman in an apron, Rosa, Ava guessed, came out of a doorway with a towel in her hands and looked at her and said, in the voice of a woman who had seen a lot of people arrive at this house late at night, "Come here, honey. Let's get you out of that coat." Ava went. She took off the coat. She handed over the 2 phones in the inner pocket without explaining what they were. Rosa took them without asking. Rosa led her to a bathroom. Ava stood at the sink in a strange house in a town she didn't know the name of, and she looked at herself in the mirror, blotchy, pale, 26 going on 100, and she thought, I don't know who that is yet. Behind her, through the open door, she could hear the steady beep of a heart monitor, down the hall, in a room where a man who had lain still for 3 years was now sleeping under his own power in a bed that nobody outside this house knew about. She put both hands flat on the edge of the sink. She closed her eyes. She breathed. She stood at that sink a long time. When she finally came out of the bathroom, Rosa was waiting in the hallway with a mug of something hot, and Ava took it without asking what it was. And Rosa led her to a small room at the back of the house with a low bed and a window that looked out on nothing but trees. Ava sat on the edge of the bed. She drank the tea. It was strong and sweet. She set the mug on the floor. She lay down in her uniform. She told herself she would not sleep. She fell asleep inside of a minute. She woke up at noon to the sound of a door closing down the hall. For a second, she did not know where she was. Then she did. She sat up. She was still in her uniform. Her shoes were on the floor at the foot of the bed, neatly placed, not by her. Rosa, she assumed. She stood. She went to the window. The world outside was trees and a thin gray sky, and far off through the branches, a flat piece of lake she had not noticed in the dark. She washed her face in the little bathroom attached to her room. She walked down the hall. She found the door to the room where they had put Riker. The doctor was still there, the one from the night before, in different scrubs now, drinking coffee from a mug with a faded logo on it. She looked up and nodded when Ava came in. "He slept," the doctor said. "Vitals are steady. He ate a little broth at 10, went back to sleep. You can talk to him if he wakes up. Don't push him." "Okay. I'm Rita, by the way." "Ava." "I know." Rita smiled briefly. It was not an unkind smile. "Henry told me. He told me to tell you you did a good job in the hallway last night, ripping the IV and taping it with your teeth. He said that was what made him decide you were one of us." Ava didn't know what to say to that. She nodded. Rita went back to her clipboard. Ava crossed to the bed. Riker was asleep. Really asleep this time. Not the coma face. Not the awake pretending to be asleep face. The one where his mouth was soft and his eyelashes made small shadows on his cheeks, and he looked, for the first time since she had met him, like a tired man who was actually getting to be tired for a while. She sat down in the chair beside him. She didn't touch him. She just sat there and watched him breathe. At some point, she fell asleep again in the chair. When she woke up, his eyes were open and he was looking at her. "Hi," he said. His voice was rough, but it was less rough than it had been, like a voice that had started to remember being a voice. "Hi. You slept in that chair." "For a little. I've been watching you for 20 minutes. "That's creepy, Riker." He almost smiled. "Yeah," he said, "sorry." "No, you're not." "No, I'm not." She laughed. It surprised her. It surprised him, too. The corners of his eyes crinkled, and in that 1 second she saw what he had probably looked like at 25, before any of his life had happened to him, and her chest did something she did not have a word for. Rita left the room quietly. Neither of them noticed for a minute. "How bad is it?" Ava said. "How bad is what?" "You, your body. How bad?" He thought about it. Bad. I can sit up with help. I can hold a cup. I can say whole sentences without running out of air, which is new as of this morning. Rita says the next 2 weeks are the hard part. After that, maybe I can stand. After that, who knows? People don't usually walk out of what I walked out of. People don't usually do any of what you did. No. Riker. Yes. What happens now? He was quiet for a long time. He looked at the ceiling. When he spoke, it was the careful voice of a man arranging pieces he had been moving in his head for 3 years. Henry is meeting with my lawyers at 4 this afternoon, he said. We'll file our own documents in the morning. I'm going to give a short statement, on video, from this bed. I'll look bad. That's fine. A judge doesn't need me to look good. He needs to see me conscious and lucid and able to say my own name. The guardianship petition dies the second the judge sees that video. My accounts are already back under my control as of last night. Henry has been busy. And Marcus is going to be furious. Okay? Furious and embarrassed. Those are not a safe combination in him. He's going to do something stupid. What? I don't know yet. But he'll do it. He's never been able to lose a hand quietly. He has to shove the table. Okay? Ava. Yeah. Your sister and your mother. She looked up. I want them moved, he said. Today. Not the facility. The facility is fine. But I want a protection detail on that building. And I want your sister picked up from wherever she is right now and brought somewhere she can't be found. And I want to pay for all of it. And I want you to call her and tell her to go with the people I send. And I want her to do it without asking too many questions. Riker, please. She's going to ask questions, Riker. She's my sister. Tell her whatever makes her get in the car. Okay? Now, not later. Now. She nodded. She went to find a phone. Rosa gave her one. A clean one. She dialed Lauren. Lauren picked up on the first ring, the way people pick up when they've been waiting, and her voice said, Av. Oh God, Av, where are you? There are people here at Mom's facility. Av, they said they're yours. They said you sent them. There's a woman who keeps trying to smile at me. Av, what is happening? Lauren, listen to me. I'm listening. You're going to get in a car with those people. You're going to take your phone. You are going to take Mom's paperwork from the drawer by her bed. You're going to leave everything else. AV, I'm safe. I'm okay. I'm not in danger. But somebody might come looking for me, and when they can't find me, they might come looking for you, and that can't happen. You need to go with them. You need to stay with Mom. They'll take you both somewhere quiet, a week, maybe 2. That's it. Ava. Lauren, please. A long silence. Okay? Okay? Yeah, okay, I trust you. I don't understand anything, but I trust you. I love you. I love you too. Whatever this is, you come out of it, yeah? I will. Swear to God. I swear. Okay? She hung up. She stood in the kitchen of that strange house with her hand on the counter and her head down, and she breathed, and Rosa set a plate of something down near her elbow without saying anything. Eggs, toast. Ava ate it standing up. She went back to Riker's room. Done, she said. Thank you. She's scared. She'll be fine in a week. I know. Ava. Yeah. Come here. She came. She sat on the edge of his bed. He lifted his hand, his own, no shake this time, just slow, and put it on the side of her face. His palm was warm. Thank you, he said again. Stop thanking me. No. Riker, every time I stop thanking you, I start telling you I love you, and you are not ready for that yet. So I am thanking you instead. For now. Her eyes went hot. That's not fair. I know. You can't just say things like that and expect me to. I know. You were in a coma 4 days ago. I was. You don't know me. I know you better than anybody in my life has ever known me. And I know that that is a thing a man in my position is allowed to say exactly one time. So I am going to say it once and then stop. She put her hand on top of his on her cheek. She closed her eyes. A tear slid out anyway. Once, she whispered. Once. For 3 days after that, the house held its breath. Henry came and went. Lawyers came in the morning and left at dusk. A judge, somewhere in a chamber Ava would never see, watched a video of a gaunt man in a bed say his own name and his birthday, and the date, and look directly into the camera and revoke every proxy document his brother had ever held. The guardianship petition collapsed by Tuesday afternoon. Riker's accounts came fully back online by Wednesday morning. By Wednesday night, the news wires in their city had a short item about Riker Kane having regained consciousness after a long illness, placed on page 7 of the local paper, no pictures. On Thursday, the doctor said he could stand for 30 seconds with a walker. He stood for 20 and sat down and cursed and stood again and made it to 40. Ava sat in the chair and watched him and did not say anything and did not clap. She had learned in 4 days that he did not like being clapped for. He liked, instead, when she pretended not to notice the small victories, which freed him from having to pretend not to care about them. On Friday early, Rita came out of his room with her mouth a tight line. Ava was in the kitchen. Rosa was pouring coffee. "What?" "I need to check him again," Rita said. "But I think something's wrong." "What kind of wrong?" "His numbers were fine at 3 a.m. At 6, his oxygen sat dropped 4%. His heart rate's up. He's sweating." "He was fine last night." "I know." "What is it, Rita?" Rita hesitated. "Ava, when was the last time he was near you? Close. Physical proximity." Ava blinked. "Last night, before bed. I sat with him until 10. How far was your chair?" 10 feet, maybe. "All night?" "Yes." Rita set her mug down. "I think he needs to stop sleeping alone." A cold thing went down Ava's back. "What? Don't look at me like that. I don't know what I'm saying yet. I'm telling you that something about having you in a room with him and not having you in a room with him is showing up in his numbers. And I don't know why. And I am a practical woman, and I am not about to pretend I do know why. But I noticed it yesterday when you went for a walk with Henry, and I noticed it this morning when you slept in your own room. His body gets worse when you're not close." "Rita." "I know. That's not a thing. I know. People don't have medical dependencies on other people." "I know what I'm looking at, Ava." They stared at each other. Rosa, at the stove, turned the burner off without making a sound. "Go sit with him," Rita said. "An hour, close. I'll recheck." Ava went. She sat by his bed. She took his hand. She didn't say anything. He opened his eyes once, looked at her, closed them again. His color, over the next 40 minutes, came back. His breathing steadied. When Rita came in to check the numbers, she did it in silence. She pressed her stethoscope to his chest. She looked at the monitor. She looked at Ava. "I want you to leave the room," she said. Ava looked at Riker. He was asleep. She stood up. She walked out into the hallway. Inside of 15 minutes, the monitor ticked up again. His SAT dropped 2%. His heart did a thing it shouldn't have. Ava went back in. It leveled. Rita stepped out into the hall with her, closed the door quietly. "I'm not a superstitious person," Rita said. "Okay." "I am a very not superstitious person, Ava. I was born in a farmhouse in Minnesota, and my father used to make fun of people who read their horoscopes." "Okay, Rita. I don't know what I'm looking at." "Neither do I." "We are going to tell him. Not yet. Later tonight. When he's awake enough to argue. Because he's going to argue, and I want you in the room for it." "Okay." That night, after Riker had eaten and dozed and woken again, Rita sat in the chair that Ava had been using and explained what she had seen. Riker listened the way he listened to everything. Still, focused, his eyes moving between Rita and Ava. When Rita was done, he didn't speak for a long time. Then he laughed. It was a dry, rough, tired laugh. It surprised all three of them. "Of course," he said. "Of course," Rita repeated, with no humor. "Of course it's not over. Of course the thing that went wrong with me 3 years ago is not just a bullet. Of course it's something that requires..." "What?" "A woman in the room." "Come on, Rita, say it." "I'm not saying anything. I'm reporting what I see." "Right. I want to do blood work. I want to send samples to a friend of mine in a lab 2 states over who owes me a favor. I want to find out if something in that bullet or something in the treatment you got for that bullet did something the doctors at St. Meridian missed. Because what I'm looking at right now, Mr. Kane, is a man whose heart and lungs are tied in some way I can't explain to the physical presence of a specific human being. I don't know how that's possible. I know it's happening. Riker closed his eyes. Ava, standing at the foot of the bed, felt the whole room tilt a little. How sure, Riker said. Sure enough to say it out loud. And if she's not here, then I don't know how many weeks you've got, and I'm being conservative. Riker opened his eyes. He looked at Ava. He didn't say anything. She didn't either. Right, he said finally, and closed his eyes again. Well, can't say my life has been boring. It was not the reaction she had expected. It was not the reaction Rita had expected. Rita got up and went to the door, and she paused there. And she looked at both of them, the man in the bed and the woman at the foot of it. And her face, briefly, was a face that was trying to decide whether to apologize for something she hadn't caused. I'll run the labs, she said. We'll know more in a few days. She left. Ava stood at the foot of the bed. Riker, don't. Riker, please, Ava, not right now. I'm not leaving. Yes, you are. Excuse me? I said, yes, you are. She stared at him. Riker Kane. I knew something like this was coming. Not this. Something, some string. There was always going to be a string. My family does not have clean endings. So tonight, before you say anything else, I'm going to say the thing you are not going to want to hear, and then you are going to think about it, and then you are going to make your decision. What? I won't do this to you. What do you mean, do this to me? I won't be a man you are obligated to stay alive. I won't be a condition on your life. You have spent 3 years looking after a body in a bed. I am not going to let you spend the rest of your life in the same chair just because the body now talks. That is not love. That is hostage-taking. I will not do it to you. So what? What are you saying? You're going to, what, Riker, die to free me? Is that what you're going to do? I'm saying you get to choose. That's not a choice. What kind of choice is that? The kind I can live with, or not live with. Riker, I mean it, Ava. You don't mean it. I mean it. Then mean it tomorrow, not tonight. Ava, tonight I'm tired. Tonight we sleep. Tomorrow you can be noble. Tomorrow you can be whatever you want to be. Tonight I'm going to sit in the chair and I'm going to hold your hand and you're going to let me, because if I let go of you in the next 6 hours, apparently you might actually die. And I have not come this far to watch you die because you decided to be an idiot about it. He looked at her. Okay, he said. Okay? Okay. Good. She sat down. She took his hand. She cried. Not loud, just tears. He didn't wipe them. He didn't try to. He just held her hand, and at some point he closed his eyes, and at some point she did too, and somewhere in the middle of the night Rosa came in with a blanket and put it over Ava's shoulders without saying anything. In the morning, Marcus Kane came. Nobody expected him to. That was the thing. They had expected a lawyer. They had expected a letter. They had expected even a man with a gun. They had not expected Marcus himself. He drove up the gravel road at 10:14 in the morning in a car that was not armored and not driven by anyone else. He stepped out alone. He walked to the porch. He put his hands in his coat pockets. He stood there. One of Henry's men came out, looked at him, looked at the empty car behind him, walked around the car, checked it, came back. Alone, the man said. Yes. You have a weapon on you. No. Arms out. Marcus held them out. The man frisked him. Patient. Thorough. Marcus did not move. I'd like to see my brother. You are not going to see your brother? Then I'd like to see the woman. Ava, in the kitchen, heard him say it. Her hand stopped on the handle of the coffee pot. Henry came to the kitchen door. Ava. I heard. You don't have to. I want to. Ava. I want to. Henry studied her. Then you go out on the porch, he said. You do not come down the steps. He does not come up them. I will be inside the door. 2 of my people will be behind the corner of the house. You understand me? Yes. If he makes any move that I don't like, the conversation is over. Yes. She took off her apron. She walked to the front door. She opened it. She stepped out onto the porch. Marcus Kane looked up at her. In daylight, he looked worse than he had in the hallway of St. Meridian. Or maybe worse was not the word. He looked less groomed, less certain, less iron. There were gray hairs at his temples that she didn't remember being there, and a small cut on his jaw where a razor had slipped that morning. And his eyes, which had been so restless before, were quieter now, tired and furious. Miss Carter? Mr. Kane, I'd like to speak with you. Speak. He looked around. At the porch. At the trees. At Henry's man, standing 20 feet away with his hands visible. Will you come down? No. All right. He swallowed. My brother is alive. Yes. He was alive the whole time. Yes. You knew. For 4 days. 4 days. Yes. He let out a short breath, almost a laugh. Not quite. I had him for 3 years, he said quietly. 3 years I had him, and a bus-broke-down aide kissed him awake in 4 days. It wasn't like that. It was a little like that. Mr. Kane, please don't call me that. What would you like me to call you? I don't know. I don't know anymore. He looked at his shoes. When he looked up again, his face had changed. He was no longer the man in the charcoal suit. He was a man who had been running a long time on a very steep hill and had just realized at the top that the hill had not been going where he thought it had been going. I loved my father, he said. Ava didn't answer. I loved my father, and he didn't love me back. And he loved my brother instead. And I spent 20 years learning how to be the kind of man my father had wanted. And by the time I finished, my father was dead. And then my brother was in a coma, and I thought, finally, that he'd left me something. That he'd left me the work. And I found out that even in the coma, even as a body in a bed, he'd been given everything in the will, and I'd been given a trust fund and a polite letter. A polite letter, Ms. Carter. Like I was an acquaintance. She said nothing. I'm not asking for your sympathy. Good. You don't have it. A muscle jumped in his jaw. I came here to tell you something. Okay? I came here to tell you that I'm done. She blinked. You're done. I pulled Daniel Marsh off your friend at St. Meridian this morning. He is no longer on my payroll. I have instructed my people, the ones who are still speaking to me, which is not many, to stand down. I will be leaving the city within 48 hours. My mother will be told a version of this that she can live with. I will not contest my brother's authority. I will not come back. She stared at him. Why? Because I lost. That's not a reason. It's the only reason a man like me has. Mr. Kane. Marcus. Marcus, I don't believe you. I know. People like you don't walk away. People like me walk away when they finally understand what was going to happen if they didn't. I underestimated my brother for the last time, and I underestimated the woman who kissed him. I will not make that mistake a third time. She looked at him a long time. If you lie to me now, she said, he will come for you. Not me, him. And he is not the man you grew up with, Marcus. He has had 3 years to think. Something passed across his face. Not fear, grief. I know that, he said quietly. That's the other reason. She didn't say anything. Will you tell him, he said, that I came? Yes. Will you tell him? He stopped. He looked at his shoes again. Tell him I'm sorry about Bo. Ava had no idea who Bo was. Then she remembered. The dog. Okay. Marcus Kane turned around. He walked to his car. He opened the door. He paused. He looked back at her. You make him a better man than he was, he said. He was a worse man before. You should know. I do know. Good. He got in his car. He backed down the drive. He was gone. Ava stood on the porch for a long time after the sound of the tires had faded. Henry came out. He stood beside her. Did you believe him? He said. Yes. So did I. Will we watch him anyway? We will watch him anyway. Good. They went inside. Ava walked down the hall. She opened the door to Riker's room. He was sitting up against the pillows, the walker at the side of the bed. a glass of water in his hand that he had gotten himself off the nightstand. He left, she said. I heard. You heard. The windows are open in this house, Ava. I heard. He said he's done. I know. Henry called 2 of our people in the city half an hour ago to verify. He's packing, real packing, not fake packing. Riker. Yes. He said to tell you he was sorry about Bo. He looked at her. His face did something she was not going to forget. He looked down, for a long time. When he looked up again, his eyes were wet, just the edges, nothing that spilled. Okay, he said. Riker. Yes. Are we safe now? He thought about it. Safer, he said. Never safe. Okay?
Ava. Yes. Come sit down. She sat on the edge of the bed.
Over the next 6 weeks, Rita's friend sent back 3 rounds of blood work. The labs found nothing they could name. They found one thing they could not explain. A marker, something small, a readout that did not match any case in the literature. And they called it, for lack of anything better, an anomaly. They called and they said, we don't know. We can keep looking. We have no idea what this is. Rita, by the end of the 6th week, told Riker the truth. She told him her best medical guess, after everything, was that the bullet had hit a nerve or a piece of vascular tissue in a way that had triggered something not well understood, some regulatory loop that ran through brain chemistry and heart and lung, and that for reasons nobody could prove, that loop had started to synchronize with another human nervous system during the long months Ava had been in that room. That it had chosen her, Rita said, was probably an accident of exposure, not magic. That it was as real as any other physical symptom, Rita said, was not in question. Riker had nodded. Ava had nodded. They had both sat with that for a long time. That night Riker said, so I have to live with you. Apparently. That's a hell of a deal for a woman. It's not the worst deal I've heard. Ava. I don't want you to ask me to marry you because of a medical condition, Riker. I wasn't going to. Okay. I was going to ask you to marry me because I woke up one night and a tired woman was telling a body in a bed that she was scared about her mother, and something inside me that had been gone for a long time came back, and it has not gone away since, and I do not think it is going to. Riker. But not tonight. Okay? Tonight we sleep. Tonight we sleep. In the spring, Ava's mother died. It was quiet. It was in the private room at Ashfield Haven with Ava on one side of the bed and Lauren on the other, and their mother said their names one time each, very clearly, and then she didn't say anything else, and she was gone before the sun came up. Ava sat with her a long time after. Lauren went out and made the phone calls. Ava sat with her mother's hand in hers, and she told her, softly, a lot of things. About the man she had met, about the way her life had gone sideways, about how she wasn't sure yet what she was doing, but that she was happy more than she had ever been, and that she was sorry her mother hadn't gotten to meet him awake. Riker came to the funeral. He walked, slowly, with a cane. He stood at the back of the chapel during the service because he didn't want to be the story, and afterwards he stood outside in the sun and shook hands with every single one of Maureen Carter's friends from her guidance counselor days, and he told them, one by one, that her daughter had been the kindest person he had ever met. Ava watched him from the steps. She watched the way he held the cane. She watched the way he held the hand of an old woman who had known her mother for 40 years and was crying, and she watched him not let go of that old woman's hand until the old woman was done crying. That night she married him. It wasn't planned. Neither of them had meant to do it. They had come back to the safe house, which was less a safe house now, and more a place they both lived, and she had sat on the porch with him and said, out loud, the thing that had been sitting in her for months. Riker. Yes. I don't want you to marry me because you're sick. I know. And I don't want to marry you because I'm tired. I know that too. I want to marry you because I want to marry you. I want you to know that's the reason. I want it on the record. Okay. Okay? Ava, I have been sure of you since the second night in that hospital room. I have just been waiting for you to be sure of me. I'm sure. Then let's go find somebody with a license. Tonight? Tonight. They drove into the nearest town. There was a judge who owed Henry a favor. There was a small civil room in a municipal building with a flag and a water cooler and a secretary who was also the witness. There was a ring that Henry had somehow produced, plain gold, nothing fancy, because Riker had said she was not the kind of woman who wanted a rock. She was the kind of woman who wanted a ring. There was a 2-minute ceremony. There was a kiss. Ava wore jeans. Riker wore a button-down with the sleeves rolled up over the scar on his left forearm that had been, 3 years earlier, an IV port. They signed the papers. They drove home. They ate leftovers. They sat on the porch. They went to bed. It was, Ava thought later, the realest day of her life, which was funny because for weeks after she kept expecting to feel married and never quite did. Feeling married, she decided, was not the thing. The thing was what they had every morning, which was still themselves, sitting across from each other, drinking bad coffee, arguing about whether the radio was too loud. They had to live close, always. That was the condition of Riker's body, and it didn't go away. Rita's friend kept looking. Other people they paid very well kept looking. Year after year, nothing was ever fully explained. At some point, they stopped chasing it. At some point, Riker said, one night on the porch, "I think if anyone ever figures this out, it will be 100 years after we're both dead, and I think I'm okay with that." And Ava, who had stopped keeping score a long time before, had said, "Yeah, me too." Marcus Kane did not come back. He moved to a small city 2 time zones away. He got into a legitimate business, of all things, a construction company, and he was good at it, because Marcus Kane had always been good at anything he wasn't trying to inherit. Every year, on their father's birthday, he sent Riker a card. The cards were never answered. They also were never thrown away. Ava found them in a drawer one winter, stacked neatly, year after year, and she didn't say anything, and neither did Riker, and that was a kind of answer too. Daniel Marsh disappeared. Victor stayed with them for the rest of his working life, and when he retired, he moved to be closer to his daughter in Ohio, and they paid for her wedding the year after, and neither Ava nor Riker asked for credit for it. Dana, from St. Meridian Memorial, got a mysterious bonus from the hospital board the spring after Ava left. A bonus for which no one ever gave her a proper explanation. And she knew exactly where it had come from, and she spent it, and she didn't ask questions. Halloran retired. Cheryl went to pediatrics, poor kids. Lauren got a job she loved. She came to dinner once a month. The plasma center on the strip mall closed 2 years later, not for any dramatic reason, just because the strip mall got torn down. Sometimes, in the early mornings, before Riker was up, Ava would make coffee and stand at the window of the house they now owned and watch the light come in through the trees, and she would think about a tired woman in a 14th floor hospital room talking to a body in a bed about her mother and her rent and a pair of shoes with a hole in the heel. She would think about that woman kindly, the way you think about a younger self. She would think about how sure that woman had been that nothing in her life was going to change, and how wrong she had been, and how sometimes the only thing standing between a person and a completely different life was one small, stubborn act of tenderness toward someone who had done nothing to deserve it. That, she thought, might be the thing she believed now, if anyone ever asked her. That the world was run by power and fear and money and lies, mostly, and those were the things that decided who lived and who got ground up at the bottom of it. But every so often, in some dark room that nobody was watching, a person did a small thing for another person. Not because it was smart, not because it paid, not because anybody was going to thank them. And that small thing cracked everything open. Not in a way that fixed the world. The world didn't get fixed, just in a way that made a new thing possible, between 2 people, where nothing had been possible before. That was the only piece of it she was sure of. The rest of it, the coma, the body, the bullet nobody could explain, the way his heart still tracked the distance between them like a compass needle. The rest of it, she had decided, was not hers to understand. She had stopped needing to. She had a husband. She had a sister. She had a drawer full of unanswered birthday cards that said something complicated about family. She had a porch and a lake through the trees, and a man who, on bad nights when the dreams came for him, could reach out in the dark and find her hand and remember, by touch, that he was alive. That was enough. One morning, late, when the sun had been up for hours and she had let him sleep because the nights had been hard that week, Ava carried a mug of coffee into their bedroom and set it on the nightstand and sat down on the edge of the bed. Riker opened his eyes. He looked up at her. The gray in them had softened over the years into something less like weather and more like stone. Something still a little cold, yes, but warmed by the hand that had been holding it. "Hi," he said. "Hi. Coffee?" "Yeah. What time?" 10:30. "God. Don't!" He almost laughed. "Sorry. Habit of a lifetime." "Yeah." She leaned down. She kissed his forehead, the way she had kissed her mother's forehead, the way she had learned to kiss the people she loved who had been close to dying and had not died. "Come on," she said. "Get up. The day's wasting." "In a minute." "Now, Riker." "In a minute, Ava." She sat on the bed and held his hand while he finished waking up. The light came in through the window. The lake through the trees flashed dull silver. Somewhere a bird was making the kind of small, stubborn noise birds make in spring. He opened his eyes again. He looked at her. "Okay," he said. "Now." And he got up.